Well, hello everyone and welcome along to this brand new season of Formula E Accelerate. It's not just a one-off here in London this year. We'll be doing a few majors before we get to that London finale, and we're in for an absolute treat. I'm Lewis McGlade, and joined alongside me for this season is one Mr. Cameron Roger. We're in for an absolute treat this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Not just one event, but three, as you say, coming the way over the next couple of months. So, yeah, loads of action to be had. And, of course, we need to see how the drivers get used to this new Gen 3 car that's only just been released for these drivers. Yeah,
it's absolutely brand new for the platform. And it has been a bit tricky for some of the drivers that have been through a pre-qualifying process. Now, how's that worked? How have the drivers got to this point?
Yeah, so once the car got released, there was an open qualifying session where pretty much anyone from the public could go on and they could do some hot laps. Therefore, we get a top 88 drivers who went into a set of qualifying races, as you see on the top left of your screen. After those three qualifying races, we ended up with the top 22, who you are going to be seeing today for the Berlin Major, and we will then redo that format again in July for the Rome Major. After that, we'll get the top 11 drivers from the combined results, who will then go to London for the the real race in London in July.
To put us to meet us in person, obviously, that's the main thing. Now, of course, the open qualifying, like I said, that is open to everyone. Everyone's allowed to come along and take part. So if you're sat here watching, thinking, "Hang on, I haven't taken part in this. I want to have a go." Well, you can do, because when qualifying opens for the Rome Major, everyone gets to take part. And hey, you might still win your way into that London final.
Absolutely. So if you've got rFactor 2, if you've got the new Gen 3 DLC and the tracks, you can get yourself on the competition systems within rFactor 2, literally built into the game. You can go on, you can do your laps. Of course, you can practice on single player first, get used to it. And that is not coming up till July. So you do have some time to get used to the car and potentially get yourself into that top 88 for the qualifying races.
It really is a tricky car as well. We've got some of the very best drivers in sim racing that will be taking to it. And I do genuinely mean that. Obviously, fans that have come through Formula E Accelerate, things that drivers that have seen this before, you'll know the name Freddie Rasmussen, our champion of last year, our champion of the year before when we did that online season through COVID. He is back, and he is fast, terrifyingly fast as well.
Yeah, Freddie, he has this natural talent with this Formula E car. It is slightly different. Of course, we're on road tyres. We're not on slicks like we have on a lot of open wheels. And in general, it's not got the most downforce, not got the most grip. So you have to do a little bit of a different driving style. And especially with these Gen 3 cars, they've got a lot of power. So you can really use the rear end. And he just seems to have the feel with it, which is something that the other drivers need to try and pick up on.
He clicked fast as well. Because I remember the open qualifier, Freddie Rasmussen basically was just sort of like, "Oh, I've done my laps. Oh, yeah, I'm first as well. Cool." It's like, oh, right. He was very, very casual about it. Now, we don't have some drivers like, some people that we want to see. Jana Wapmir, where are you? Hopefully for next round. We'll see him out in the Rome Major. And like we've said before, when it comes to kind of fighting your way through, if you take a victory in the trip, you're in position to move your way through if you take that win, because it's the top 11 on points. No one's really going to outscore you. Like, you're not going to outscore by 10 other people.
Yeah, and the important fact is it's the top 11 over the course of the two races here in Berlin today. We'll be racing, but also Rome as well. So it's not just today. You've got to be showing up at Rome in July as well. So that's going to be a very, very sort of big talking point for this, is that it's the top 11 that we have to worry about out of these 22 drivers.
Let's very quickly then focus on the day at hand and what we're going to be watching today, because we'll be doing, if you've watched Formula E, I'm sure you have, basically be doing a full format. It's not a shortened race this time. We're doing a full distance race, but also we're doing qualifying as is. We've got 22 drivers, and they'll all be beginning in two qualifying groups, right?
Absolutely. So 22 drivers. There'll be two groups, Group A and B, of course. So there could be 11 in each, and these are basically out of the 22 that got through here. All of the odd numbers are in one group, and all of the even numbers, so 1, 3, 5, etc., and then 2, 4, 6, 8. So there's going to be the two groups. Then what we're looking for is the top 8 drivers to go through. So from the group qualifying, we then go into the duels. So this is a bracket system, so quarterfinals, semi, and final, as you would see, normally in tennis tournaments and things like that. That's what we've got here. So the top 8 we're looking through to get to the quarters.
And we just watched the end of the no spoilers, but we did just watch the end of the duels from Berlin. So it's like I say, it's fun. It's something different, which is exactly what Formula E's been so good for over the last 9 seasons, which is bringing something new, something different to the table. This new car is absolutely fantastic. It is brutally fast, like to the point of when you can go back and drive not quite. You could drive the Gen 1 car on R32, yeah. So you can go back and drive the Gen 1 car, and when you do, and you compare it to the Gen 3 car, it is worlds different.
Yeah, it's so much faster now. There's so much more power, and it's crazy how pretty much just shy of a decade of innovation is. And I think innovation really with Formula E is just the biggest point. That's why we've got this slightly different qualifying system. That's why we've got the slightly different race format and how it's all packed into one day, etc. Loads of things like this. So there's lots of things that it's trying. And of course, we'll be, I say, replicating that today. So we've got the full qualifying session. Then we have a full distance race as well, which will be around 45 minutes. So a lot of strategy is going to come into that. And really, it is going to be the best driver who wins. There's not going to be so much luck, I would say, with this format.
And who is the best driver? Who you think it's just straight up Rasmussen? I mean, like I said, very quickly, let's talk about some of the drivers that will be on the grid. Obviously, we've got Freddie Rasmussen. We've got 5-time Formula Sim Racing World Champion, along with the Formula Pro Champion of the season, the first season of that competition on rFactor. If you don't know about it, don't worry about it too much. Bonnehaus, he'll be taking part. Kevin Siggy, James Baldwin, Jacob Reed, Erhan Yovsky, Isaac Gillison, Risto Capit, Davin Rocek, Peo Pev, and Lorenz Herzing will all be going out in the first group. You can kind of see there. The ones that will be in the other group, you can see them in a slightly different order there. In the Group B, there'll be Peter Belyak, then Marco Pejic, Jake Denahan, Marcel Chinchik, Jerne Simoncic, Gianmarco Fiducci, and then Martin Moguli, Moritz Lerner, Liam Deval, Graham Carroll, and Manuel Bianca-Lilla, the 22 drivers. There is a lot of very, very good drivers on there. Talk about some of the highlights. I don't know, like James Baldwin, etc.
Well, absolutely, James Baldwin, world's fastest gamer, won a couple of years ago, and of course raced British GTs, raced at the Spa 24,
yeah.
and also not just racing, actually doing well and winning races and getting towards the top, and obviously racing for things like Rocket, which of course is Jenson Button's team that he's got a hand in. So he's got some really good experience as well, not just in sim racing but in real life. Also Moritz Lerner as well. He's done obviously GT4 racing as well, the DTM Trophy. So he's got a lot of experience. So this is a stacked grid, to be honest, and a lot of these drivers are doing so many competitions at the same time as well. It's amazing how they've had the time to get up to speed for this too. Yeah,
along with Erhan Yovsky, of course, who was the runner-up back in 2021 with 3 race victories. He'll I think he's pretty relaxed about it, but I'm gonna paint a picture for him anyway. Sorry, mate. I think he still might be a little bit hurt that he didn't win that championship. It came down to the final round. Double points were on offer, and Freddie Rasmussen won that final race, and in doing so, won the title. And do you think Erhan's got that a little bit on his mind? He's feeling hungry, right?
Definitely. And Erhan is.
We are just being told, speaking of Erhan Yovsky, we're being told he has actually just had to pull out after an emergency. So that's a shame. That is a turn for the books. That's a big shame.
He's a proper driver, champion in many, many competitions. Yeah. And as you're saying, obviously runner-up. So he definitely knows how to drive this style of car. But obviously, hopefully everything is well in that emergency situation from his side. But yeah, that's going to be a big shame, which means we'll be down to 21 drivers and slightly more opportunity because that is one of the top drivers that's been taken out.
Maybe the emergency was he actually did quite well last night. And he got his way through. No, it's a different championship, a different thing he was racing. That quite a lot of these people on this grid are racing. This is the thing with sim racing. It is so busy all of the time. There is competitions left, right, and centre, and a lot of these drivers are on double or potentially even triple duty this weekend.
The reason why is because a lot of these drivers are actually full-time professional sim racers as well. This is obviously going beyond just a hobby in your room. This is actually proper esports now where, just looking down this list, multiple of these drivers are on full-time contracts. They are literally spending their week practicing for all of these competitions, and that is how they have enough time to get to the absolute top level that we're seeing today.
But this is the thing, though, is that like whilst you're going up against some of these drivers that do have those full-time contracts that are in sim racing all the time, Bonnehaus, Kevin Siggy, Freddie Rasmussen, drivers like that, to then have drivers that most certainly aren't on those kinds of contracts. The drivers like Peo Pev, like Lorenz Herzing and Jacob Reed. It's drivers like this that are basically just doing it for a little bit of prize money, a little bit of exposure, a little bit of fun, a little bit of hobby. How much of a chance do you think these kind of drivers actually have to take on these heavyweights of the sim racing world?
Well, just a couple of drivers I know pretty well from teams that I'm involved with, like Jerne Simoncic, Davin Rocek. Just for example, Simoncic, full-time sim racer, so he obviously has all the time in the world to practice these things. Rocek, he has a full-time job, and he does this in his part-time. but he can still get up to speed and be as
he
fast.
is rapid.
But you have to dedicate those hours in the evenings and in your weekends to be able to do that. And yeah, when we're getting down to thousandths of a second, we will see in these qualifying sessions, those last thousandths you find by doing that extra 100, extra 1,000 laps of practice.
Yeah, whilst we're waiting for the race, by the way, to jump, once we get ready into qualifying, rather, give a bit of a shout out to some of our sponsors. This, of course, Allianz, big backer of Formula E, same with Copper.co, Tag Heuer, we'll be talking a little bit more about them throughout the broadcast, and then, of course, ABB, the official partner of the FIA Formula E World Championship. So a lot of help coming our way, along with 397 who have built this, put a lot of work into building this car, getting it out and delivering it in the way that it was. Same as the Gen 2 car, I think it's fantastic. I've not actually driven the Gen 2 car. You actually have.
Yeah, done a few laps. Obviously, it's literally, it only got released, I think maybe it was like Wednesday last week. Yeah, very short time that the drivers have had to get up to speed. But, of course, that is their job for today. And the car, talking of the car, obviously this is simulation on rFactor 2, but everything that you would expect to be in the car is there. We have the regenerative braking. We have the fact that it's just brake by wire on the rear as well. There isn't like a physical brake there. We have the different power modes. We have attack mode. All of these things that you would expect to be in the car are there in the simulation, and they're simulated to a very high degree as well.
What do you mean by brake by wire?
Absolutely.
Let's clear this up. This is all for you at home. I obviously definitely know what this is.
Yeah, so when you have your normal brakes on the front, like you'd have mechanical brakes with the disc and pad, but on the rear, you basically have a motor, which obviously powers the wheels. But when you're then decelerating, it goes the other way. It becomes a generator, and it puts the motion of the wheels turning, puts that power back into the battery. So you have the regen under braking. If the drivers went flat out the whole race, they wouldn't have enough power to get the whole 45 minutes. So the braking, the lifting and coasting, things like that, you'll see these strategies for the drivers to regen that power to use later in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, one of the major things in this, before we get into qualifying very quickly, there is attack mode. There is attack mode.
Yeah, so this is one of those things that has been added where you go on the outside of a certain corner in one of the hairpins, and then when you get to that part of the track, you can activate a higher power mode. But we'll get to that in the race. Now we're going into the qualifying. So this is the group qualifying. Group A must be out there at the moment.
Yeah, certainly so. So again, just Group A, by the way, again, Rasmussen, House, Siggy, Baldwin, Reed, Yofsky, Gillison, then Capit, Morocek, Pev, and Herzing, the ones that will be out on circuit. We're on board with two-time champ himself, Freddie Rasmussen. What's he doing here?
He's warming up those tyres. These are road tyres. As you can see, they've got the grooves. They've got, the wet weather markings really on them, the Hankook tyres, and as we will see, the drivers need to get them up to temperature. There's no tyre blankets either, like you see in the likes of Formula 1. These are literally as they come at ambient temperature, so you need to get the heat into them so you have the grip on your qualifying lap. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think it'd be good to have a little look on board around a lap with Freddie Rasmussen. We're coming down through the penultimate corner now. You can see he's got plenty of traffic ahead of him that he'll just have to navigate, have to piece his way through. Of course, everyone's wanting to go out on their laps in their own pace and their own form. I'm not sure as to which one was exactly ahead of him. He kind of wants it to be someone that's moderately fast.
Yeah, you don't want to be held up on your laps. As you're going to see through this first part of the track, it is very tight, it's very technical. Here, you want to have full concentration, have no distractions from cars ahead.
Yeah, as we'll see him head down into the first corner. Of course, all of them will be representing various Formula E teams, representing the liveries and such. Freddie Rasmussen, I do believe last year, as we see him head through turn 3, Freddie Rasmussen was representing Tag Heuer Porsche as well last year. So, yeah. I don't know if they have much of a choice, but he's clearly like, yeah, that one. I want that one. Onto the back stretch. And this is where the cars go up to the fastest speed they have. You saw it just tipping over 150 miles now, about 240k into the hairpin, which is where attack mode is on the outside into this fantastic fast left-hander.
Yeah, this is very tricky with the massive curb on the X in the wall as well. And then you've got to try and work your way up towards this hairpin. Full commitment onto the brakes, but don't overdo it, which is just about done there, sliding through the apex. Yeah, that is certainly not ideal. Kevin Siggy puts the first lap time onto the board with a 1 minute 4.1. Riste Capit goes just 18,000th rather directly behind. Baldwin's also in the mix. Let's see what Freddie Rasmussen does across the line. He's aiming to get himself amongst those kinds of times as he heads over there. I mean, despite that issue in the hairpin, he still sets a 1:04.1 and moves himself up onto what would provisionally be, not pole, but you know what I mean, definitely a comfortable transfer spot.
What kind of times are we expecting them to do that? I think surely we should be expecting them to break into the threes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen times down towards like the 3.7, so we're still sort of 4/10 away from that. But of course, that is a perfect lap. And when you're in these situations, when the pressure's on, when there's cars around you, it's of course hard to get to the absolute limit. Here we see Kevin Ziggy obviously winning the Racer Home Challenge back in 2020 as well. He knows what he's doing in this style of cars, trying to work his way up to a lap. And as you can see, it's so close that every little mistake is going to count.
Yeah, certainly so. Again, we're looking for 8 drivers to progress from the qualifying that we're in now into the duels, when we'll see the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then that final decider as to who's going to be on pole position. James Baldwin out of that hairpin, and then going through the fast flick at turn 7, through the kink at 8, and then down towards the hairpin where Freddie Rasmussen. I want to see if he locks up his rears.
Yeah, it can be quicker to do that because you effectively rotate the car around the corner. As we're saying, he doesn't have the most grip.
It's warm up his tires,
because actually this is a point, actually, because there's no tire blankets, they might need 2 laps to actually warm up the tires, not just 1 out lap, they might need a couple. Unfortunately, they do have about 6 minutes left to try and do that. As we see, though, coming towards turn 1, just nudging over 150 miles an hour. These Gen 3 cars are quick.
They really are absolutely rapid. So into that first corner, you'll see there is Kevin Siggy again locking the rears a little bit, coming down into turn 6. Again, big. There is a lot of power going to the rear wheels that do not have much grip, and you kind of see it kicking. It's you really have to wrestle this car all the way around this Berlin circuit, and Kevin Siggy is doing just about that to try and get himself, or keep himself really in the mix. I know he's inside that top 4 at the moment, those that should be progressing from this session, but he's just about keeping in touch.
And with how close it is behind, you don't know if those drivers just a couple of tenths back, if they nail their lap, they're going to be coming past you. Let's see what Ziggy does coming towards the line. Is he going to be any sort of improvement? Doesn't look like it. No. Just consolidating that those laps at the moment. Still 5 minutes left, though, as we come to Gillison here, coming down in towards that very tricky hairpin. We've seen quite a few drivers making some mistakes, and it wasn't even Robin Freins in FP1 in real life doing a bit of a spin at that corner as well. It's definitely one of the more difficult ones.
Yeah, I see Bunnerhaus and Kevin Siggy, Risto Capit also to return to pit lane in the recent past. So a lot of them coming back in, getting some fresh tyres, and then getting ready for the final 4.5 minutes left of this qualifying session. Isaac Gillison across the line, 5th place for him, under 2 tenths off of pole, and a whopping 1,000th faster than the 5-time Formula Sim Racing World Champion. David Marocek, our focus of attention now. And we'll see what he can do. I mean, obviously, you'll know a lot about Bono, about David. He's one of your teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been doing some good pace around here. And, of course, it's when it just comes down to it, that's where the pressure comes on, though. That's where you have to nail these laps. And, as always, qualifying is important. You want to be up in the top half, sliding it through 7 and 8 there. That's really going to be using the absolute limit of the tyres. But is it too much?
Yeah, you could see there in the bottom right, you can see the throttle trace and the brake trace. You can kind of see there he didn't really get onto full power. He was kind of on and off of it quite a little bit, trying to wrestle the car into that turn 7 through that fast left-hander. Out of the final corner though at T10 and up towards the line. The other one of the Tag Heuer Porsche drivers comes across the line, and 7th place he will remain.
Yeah, certainly, but getting very close at the top 4. And as you say, we're looking for the top 8 overall, but we do need to wait for the Group B to come out, obviously, in a few minutes' time. So there are still 11 drivers. They're all in the pit lane, as you see on the bottom left of your screen. They will be coming out for their laps a little bit later. Yeah,
certainly so. Yeah, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm a massive Martin Mergulli fan after his exploits in the Le Mans Virtual Cup, he will be out on circuit. Don't panic too much. They all will be once this session has come to a close. On board with Bunnerhaus representing the Maserati MSG Racing team down towards turn 6. Bit of a lock-up on the front left. It doesn't seem to have cost him too much.
Yeah, it actually helped his exit a little bit. He sort of V'd the corners a little bit, so we get a little bit better run.
Oh,
yeah, not good there. Bit slow on the apex and wide as well. Not a great line for Bono.
Yeah, that was, sorry, it does feel a little bit brutal when I see someone of this quality. There is that slide into the hairpin. I don't think we'll see that too much in the race because you'll burn out your rear tyres, but in qualifying you can get away with really throwing it in there. Yeah, I feel bad for being like, no, that was wrong, that was wrong. I mean, he's a much better driver than me, but at the same time, that was almost certainly wrong going down into turn 7. Out towards the line, he's currently 6th. He's on the outside looking in. There's 2 minutes left of this session. He'll come across the line, and there is no improvement from him. These have been tough lap times that have been set in the opening stages of this.
Yes, they're definitely fast laps. They're very competitive. There isn't much room for improvement. Definitely, as I said, into the threes is going to be possible, but let's see how this one works. We've got Rasmussen now coming up to the line. Is this going to be him trying to extend his gap towards the front? Doesn't look like he improves. Yes, he does. By a few thousandths of a second. So that's 3 laps he set that are good enough for pole position.
Yeah, 104.082. So there was that slight improvement from him as he does come into the pit lane and potentially calls the session to an end. He might come back out. There's 1 minute and 40 seconds left in the session, so there's still plenty of time. On board with David Marocek coming down into turn 6, about halfway round the lap. And you can see how much he really throws the front of that car, and it gripped quite nicely, to be honest, and he gives it a good kick of oversteer as well out the corner.
Certainly does. Now trying to find the line through this chicane. You can see just how much you have to slow down.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's going to actually back out of this lap. Let's see if he's... Yeah, he is going to have enough time to get around again. Yeah, possibly just warming up the tyres for a second lap.
But I kind of feel like if it was his outlap, surely he'd be trying to warm his tyres up even more than that.
But sometimes just putting, you don't overdo it either.
That's true.
You do want to just bring the pressures up nicely, bring the temperatures up nicely. You don't want to overdo it too much and overheat the actual surface of the tyre where the grip comes from. Yeah,
Risto Capit across the line. And I believe 3rd is good enough. He elected not to take part yesterday in ESLR1. I believe it was to focus on this. Because I know Thibaut Casabon, RHG, races for Roman Grosjean's esports team, along with drivers like Marcel Chinchik, Erhan Yovsky. Yuri Tevin is not taking part in this. Risto Cap is in with them. And yeah, he elected not to take part in a race last night, got replaced by Thibaut Casabon. And I think it is so he can put all of his focus on this because he is looking rapid at the moment. James Baldwin out of the final corner and across the line to finish what I think will be his last lap of the session.
Yeah, let's see what he does. 5th place at the moment. Does he improve? Yes, he does. Very nice indeed. And look how close he is to the top. 2/10 of a second for the top 6. And that is just going to continue when we get the next group coming out as well. But let's see the final few laps come in.
Yeah, Isaac Gillison then. So he's the one that gets knocked out of that top 4. Bonnerhouse out of turn 6 towards 7. How smooth does this look? Oh, little understeer mid-corner, nothing too crazy. Big oversteer, though, going through 7. That was very scary indeed. Bonnerhouse just about keeping it on the road into the hairpin. Punches it out of the penultimate corner at T9, down towards the 10th and final. Again, he's been so successful in open wheelers in sim racing. What can he do here? That looks a little bit too scrappy, though. Bonnerhouse trying to get inside the top 4. He's presently in 6th position. Is he going to do it? The answer is no. 6th place is all Bonnerhouse can do. Knocked out in this, along with Gillison, Marocek, potentially Herzing and Reed as well, who will come across the line to finish their final laps. Such a close end to this race. Unfortunately, a couple of drivers like Jacob Reed that we're on board with here for the Neil McLaren Formula E team not going to be progressing when we get to the duels later on, but we will see them later for the race, of course. So they're going to have to sit down, but can he improve on that final lap? No, stays there in that 9th place and is going to be, obviously having to sit down for a few minutes when we get Group B come out. Yep, certainly. And of course, who topped the session? Yeah, it had to be, didn't it? It's close though. I'm not going to lie, it is close. It is tight. It is tight. They are tight. These are the margins that can see Freddie Rasmussen getting knocked out in the in the quarterfinal of a duel where he would start 8th rather than potentially pole. Yes, when we get to these duels a bit later on, we're going to be seeing head-to-head, so 2 drivers at a time. And as you say, it doesn't matter what the overall lap time is. If you're both slow, you're both slow. As long as you beat your rival is what matters. But as you say, when it's down to half a tenth, you could easily make that mistake when it comes down to just a single lap. Yeah, these drivers, though, don't... Even when it comes to like super pole, that kind of like that you only have 1 lap to make the difference. These drivers don't really crack very often. They're getting so used to it as well because it is a format that we're seeing quite a lot in sim racing. I love it. I absolutely love a one and done type qualifying. Yeah, it puts the pressure on. And it really makes the best drivers come out. And as you say, because we have it so often now, they're getting used to the pressure and just everything that comes with that in the mental space to see when we obviously get to the qualifying, you have to brake at the exact time. You have to turn in at the exact time, controlling those slides. And to do that basically on demand is very difficult. Are you any good at that kind of qualifying? No. No. See, I did get used to it doing various super poles, mostly in touring cars, of course. Trying to keep it on the black stuff all the way through that Like it's tough because the best way to do it is obviously turning off all the deltas. Anything that will tell you what you're doing on time, turn it off. It is almost completely irrelevant. You've got to focus on your lap. You don't need to know what the other guy's doing or whatever, because there is that whole thing of like, they're on a good lap. They must be on a good lap. So I've got to react to that. And what you do is you overdrive the car and then you bin it. You've got to just drive within yourself, drive the lap that you know how to drive, and keep it smooth.
Yeah, I think the main issue is overdriving. That is the big point. We saw that through that chicane of 7 and 8. A lot of drivers, they tried to take too much speed into the first apex, so then they were really tight on the second, and then they're just having to turn too much, the rear's coming all over the place. If they could just keep it that little bit more calm, they would have had a nicer line and taken more speed. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting point. And, of course, we're going to see the next set of drivers come out to try and do their thing. And here we go, 10 minutes for the next 11 drivers.
Yes, indeed. So you can see that, and I'll just make sure we write it down, because the top 4 from that session was Rasmussen, and then Siggy, Capit, and Baldwin. That will be the top 4 from Group 1. And obviously they're aiming for that 1 minute 4.0, wasn't it?
Yep, 4.0 is what we're looking for. And of course, these next group of drivers have a blank timesheet. It doesn't matter the time that these guys do now compared to Group. Doesn't matter. As long as they are getting to the top 4, as you say, they'll be getting through to the duels. So everyone who gets knocked out, who is below 4th place, their grid position is going to be set by their lap time. So they'll be knocked out. When we get to the duels, this is fighting for those final top 8 positions on the grid. And once again, you'll see the 11 drivers now try and warm up their tyres and try and get themselves ready for their hot laps.
Yes. Do you think we're going to see anyone go faster than Freddie Rasmussen in this? Do you think we'll see a 3? Do you think there's someone fast enough on the grid? Maybe potentially a Marcel Cinchik on top 4, maybe a Jerne Simoncic?
Considering the slight mistakes that we saw on Freddie's lap, and then the laps after that were basically identical times within thousandths, I definitely say there's some time to be had. But of course, you never know. And this is an ideal preparation for the likes of Petter Berlak here. You're just slowing down too much. You're losing heat in your tyres. You're losing your concentration, having to slow down out the final corner. So let's see. Here's Marko Pejic coming out of the final corner for the Avalanche Andretti team, coming down towards turn number 1. This is a very tricky braking zone. You're always turning, even in the braking zone. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter into a hairpin style corner, then through into turn 2, and now flick it back through turn 3, which is effectively a double apex. But you want to get on the power, but not too much, because you don't want to lose time out onto the back straight through turn 4 and 5.
Yeah, so I always kind of found with turn 4 is not actually that difficult. It's the fact that you've got to set it up for 5 as well, and then out onto this back stretch, keep it over to the right-hand side, and Marko Pejic will send it down into turn 6 where that attack mode is. And Pejic has been having a pretty good last couple of months, to be perfectly honest. I don't know where he's been finding some speed, but he's been finding an awful lot of speed in the world of sim racing. And don't get me wrong, he's been towards the front of many a big championship in his day, but he seems to be refinding that big form that he used to have. Let's see if he can do it here. Moritz Lerner will be the first to set a lap time in the session at 1 minute 4.3. Well, I'm pretty sure we can just scratch that one if we know that one's not going to be good enough for the top 4.
Well, we'll see as Cinchik just beats him there by 16 thousandths of a second. Where does Pejic go? He goes to the top on a 0.1, 2 tenths quicker already. That is a pretty good and very competitive first lap. Simoncic now comes in second.
Yeah, it was 78 thousandths per second. Jerne Simoncic behind the Burst esports man in this race. Of course, representing the Apt Cupra in this. We're on board with Jake Dennehan for the Jaguar TCS Racing out of the final corner and towards the line. Where's he going to go? 10th position, 3.6 seconds off. I think that's a second warm-up lap.
Yep, I would definitely say that 3 seconds back, that's too much to be a mistake. Yeah, and obviously not enough just to be a slow lap. So let's see how this one works if we go to Petter Berlak now, coming out to that turn 5. As you say, you've got to flick it left for turn 4, but then try and hold it flat out through turn 5 and down into this hairpin. Attack mode is on the outside. We do not need to do that for the qualifying session. Misses the apex a little bit, actually. That's going to hinder the exit. Can't quite get on the power either, so a few thousandths being lost there. Let's see through this chicane. Is he going to slide it through the kink of turn 8? All just on the limit there.
That was perfectly judged through 7. Just about got the line right. Again, sends it into the hairpin. Now, bearing in mind, Berlak was rapid in pre-qualifying coming into this, and of course in those qualifying races, he came into it effectively. What would be the second seeded driver from the qualifying coming into this. What does he do out of the final corner? He's 1.7 seconds off of the pole on what I believe was a second warm-up lap. He comes up towards it now, and it's only good enough for 8th.
That's weird. It looked like a half-decent lap. Maybe it was in the first couple of corners that we missed as Bianca Lilla now comes out onto the pit road. Will, of course, come out 10-minute session, so they do have time for quite a few laps, actually, with there being quite a short lap around here. As it stands, Page still leading the way from Simičić and Činčić, your top 3. Then Moritz Lerner rounding out your top 4. That'll be progressing as it stands. But look how close it is behind Lerner, Bianca Lilla, Fiducci, all within just half a tenth of a second as Činčić, massive slide there through turn 7.
Yeah, that was a big one. Like I say, these drivers all do need to improve. I am absolutely sure they need to get down towards the 104 sort of ones. At least it certainly seems as though the second group is slightly slower. This can be down to a few reasons. It might not be down to just pace. There could be conditions, could just be rough laps from them, to be honest.
Yeah, but when it's a 10th here or there, that was also just driving, to be fair, when you're right on the limit. As we've seen, Činčić actually improves, stays in third, but is now just 3 thousandths behind Jani Simičić up in second place. So this is starting to turn into a very close battle here for qualifying Group B.
Yeah, Pejec then out of the final corner and up towards the line. See if he can slap one onto the leaderboard even faster. Certainly was. 104.113. So there was a bit of an improvement there. Almost pulled a 10th clear of Jani Simičić and Marcel Činčić. Meanwhile, Graham Carroll, one of our finalists, of course, from last year that went to the London final, looking to try and do it again. But at the moment, 6th is good enough. Now, for those outside of the top 4, they're effectively battling for their starting positions in the race. It'll be 9th and down effectively, and I believe that this would be for 10th place in this race, in this group. So if you qualify in 5th in this, you'll actually start from 10th place when it comes to that race after all the duels have been settled. There's a long time for these drivers to wait until that race begins.
Absolutely, yes. So the ones who are knocked out, their lap time is set, as you say. So that is very important. Even if you don't qualify into the top 4 transfer spots, you still need to set a good place to start the grid, obviously as high as you can, because qualifying is always important, even in 45-minute racing. We still got just under 4 minutes to go, and we will see some other laps coming out. You can see the drivers slow down a little bit, try and find a bit of a gap to get a clear lap with no distractions. Yeah,
you can see there's a couple going wide. Manuel Bianca Lilla as well will take this exceptionally wide line through the final corner. What that's doing is allowing him to straight line the exit and carry more speed off of the corner. You would not do that on a flying lap. You're only doing it on the build-up because obviously the lap you're on, being the out lap or a warm-up lap, you're not bothered about the time for that. What you're bothered about the exit, as we can see Jani Simičić coming out through. I do really like the colours, by the way, on this Cupra.
Yeah, it's a very, very good-looking car, and we don't quite see the end of his lap, but they are now, as Jake Dennehan has jumped up into the provisional pole position, and he's actually done a stonking lap, a 0.03. That's pretty much the same time, if not faster, what Rasmussen did earlier. That is a huge lap as Simičić comes around the final corner now. Can he do anything to challenge what Dennehan did at the front? Is he going to get up to the top? No, he's going to stay there in 3rd place.
Wow, that is a mega lap from Jake Dennehan. Absolutely incredible. I know, like, from commentated on him in things like FSR and various things like that he's a quality driver. I would not have said, yeah, he's going to go faster than the likes of Simičić, the likes of Činčić, who's just improved up into 3rd position, or even Marko Pejec, who's sliding his way through the turn 9 hairpin up towards the final corner. He'll go. We're right on board with him as he comes up towards that final complex, braking around about the 50-metre board and sending it in through that final corner and out of it. He'll head towards the line. Is there going to be any improvement? He's had his top spot ripped away from him. There is no improvement from Pejec on this lap. So it is still Dennehan top of the timesheets.
Yeah, the last year, to put it into perspective, Dennehan was a solid average driver about a year or two ago. But for some reason, just the development path that he's been on has been insane. He's just got that last half a second that he was missing to the top guys. And not only can he do it once or twice in a hot lap session, when it comes to the races, like he's now winning races, he's now competing at the top in lots of championships like this. We've been banging on about Rasmussen all morning, and Dennehan just goes and basically puts his offer on the table.
Of all of the people on this grid, I like Jake. I do. Of all the people on this grid, I would not have expected him to be the one that maybe he is the one to take. He's the chosen one. We'll have to wait and see. There is plenty of decent drivers left. Marko Pejec, obviously, we're still laps to do. People outside of the top 4 that we expect to see improvements from. Graham Carroll's gone out for his final lap. Moritz Lerner, Marguli improves to 8th position. Belyak, and then we've got Gianmarco Fiducci, one who, honestly, I messaged him yesterday and he was like, I'm just happy to be here, to be perfectly honest. I was like, yep, good for you, mate. Liam Duval down towards the final corner, currently starting, or now qualified in the 11th position. Means he'll be starting from the back of the grid. At the moment, half a second off.
Yeah, just about a minute to go. You can, of course, finish your laps if you start them within the time limit. So Petter Burlak here coming across the line. This will be his final lap of the day. Let's see what he can do coming towards turn 1 and 2. Such a tricky part. Locks up a little bit as we see Denahan now. Can he improve?
Final lap of the day. Not expecting him to not only not get through into the duels, but also to not get through into the race.
Well, of course.
No, it's like Cam Rogers brutal in this commentary booth, ripping people to pieces. Let's see what Jake Denahan can do. Let's see if he's found any tricks into that first corner, preparing, of course, for what would be an expected entry now into the duels after that. Big slides through turn 3. Big kicks of oversteer as well on that short shoot towards turn 4. Do you remember when they put the canvas over the top of that and they had fireworks and stuff going off in there? Do you remember that?
Yes, they did. I think that was sort of like 2019 back in the day. But you see Denahan there through turn 3 just flicked it way too much, overloaded the rear end as we're seeing some improvements up the front.
Yeah, Simičić has gone up into second position after Jake Denahan's lap time was thrown away there at T6. Just a bit too much on the regen. He'll pull off. Pajic will also remove himself from the race circuit by pulling off at turn 9. Marcel Chinchik, who we're on board with here, just about to finish off his last lap time. I believe he might have might actually be Gianmarco Fiducci directly behind him as he'll come across the line. Any improvement from Chinchik? No. There's Graham Carroll. Fiducci goes to 7th, and Graham Carroll calls an end to the session. So Denahan will top it.
Certainly will. Here comes Simičić, though. Can he do anything on that final lap? No, just overloads those rear tyres coming out of the hairpin, trying to get on the power, and that will have to be an abandoned lap. He's the last driver out on circuit, so that is going to be the grid for the drivers who get knocked out. Top 4, of course, going through to the duels, and it looks like what we ended up with was pretty similar times for the top 4 that are going through.
Yeah.
So the 8 drivers total are going to be so close. It's going to be coming down to thousandths of a second.
Yeah, the 8 drivers that we have, though, moving through, obviously 4 from Group 1, 4 from Group 2, as far as we're aware. Rasmussen, Siggy, Capit, Baldwin from Group 1, and then Denahan, Simičić, Pajic, and Chinchik from Group 2. We'll see them go head-to-head, 1v1. Effectively, the way it's going to work is they'll all enter the quarterfinals in 1v1s. Let's say, for example, Freddie Rasmussen will take on Marcel Chinchik. Whoever wins that will then go through into the semi-finals, and then whoever wins that goes through into the finals. And this decides the position. If you get knocked out in the quarterfinals, I believe it comes down to the fastest lap time that was set. So if you were the fastest but you got knocked out, then you will start from 5th. Second fastest will start from 6th. 7th and 8th, and then if you get knocked out in the semi-finals, then again you'll be starting 3rd or 4th, and into the finals, it's decided what position you're going to start on the front row of the grid. Are you going to be starting from pole and earning those extra points, or are you going to be starting from 2nd and maybe having the inside for turn 1?
Yeah, it's always I don't know which side pole is actually around here, but it's definitely a tricky lap 1 actually. So that is definitely something that you need to think about. And I think when we get to these duels, it's just going to come down to just the minor details. So when you have a situation like that, the drivers that can handle under pressure is going to be obviously the ones who come out on top. But also we end up with the situation where once you start going through, you have to continue that, and it's the consistency factor that comes in.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been fantastic. By the way, we've got something which you might be able to help us out with at home, because we've been told that we were doing this. There's a little bit of a guess the driver here. Now, the portrait we're told is correct, and also we've got some stats here. So we've got to figure out who this driver is. You post it in chat. Let's have a little bit of a discussion here between ourselves. Race starts 104, podiums 32, pole positions 15. Laps led 470 and wins 11. So it's been in it pretty much from the start. I think it might be from the start.
Yeah, done quite a few races. Of course, we're on season 9 now, so 8 seasons completed. But that's a lot of pole positions to win. So someone who's done pretty well. Yeah. Someone that comes to mind from that, to me, is Da Costa. Because he's obviously a couple of times champion as well. Obviously led a lot, won a lot. So. And also, he's got quite fuzzy hair.
He does.
I'm going to go with Felix.
Yeah, my gut instinct was Sebastian Buemi, but it's not a Buemi shape. maybe Sam Bird, but Sam Bird doesn't really have that kind of like lengthier hair. But I was thinking Sam Bird because obviously he's had wins
Every
in
season.
not last season. I'm gonna stick with Sam Bird. You'll stick with DaCosta, and now we'll reveal who this mystery driver is. Oh, it's Jeff.
Jeff.
Of course.
He's, to be fair,
It
we
makes
probably should know
sense.
because he's also a 2-time champion.
I've met
and he's
him.
been here. Have you?
Yeah, I met him at Paris a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's a really nice guy.
He is a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's done world of good since obviously basically been kicked out of Formula 1 and coming into Formula E pretty much straight after that and doing good from the get-go, and of course 2-time champion. So yeah, that is a nice. Did you get it right in the chat? And we'll have to obviously go back and look.
We'll discuss it. I mean, you didn't get that bit right. 2-time champion. He's a 1-time champion, mate. Felix DaCosta's the 2-time champion.
Jeff's not 2-time.
No, Jeff.
Are
won it
you
once.
sure?
41.5%.
I'm pretty sure he won in the last one of Gen 1 and the first one in Gen 2.
No.
We'll Google
I'm
it.
pretty sure DaCosta won. We're terrible. No, I'm pretty sure Jeff, because it was 6 different champions, wasn't there? And then there was the repeat of DaCosta, and then De Vries, and then Van Dorn.
Google it in the break. Wow.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? We are not the experts. The first duel, been told, will be Risto Capit versus Kevin Siggy. Now, I'm going to say this now. If you'd have showed me those 2 names coming into this, I'd have been like, slap bang, this will be Kevin Siggy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Having seen the laptop, having seen the pace from Risto Capit, I don't know.
Yeah, Ziggy is an interesting one, though. I don't know if you realise this in some other competitions recently. He's either winning or he's just like nowhere. He's never in that sort of like podium fight or like top 5 fight I see. So basically he's either on it or off it.
Yeah.
So we'll find out. Kappa, as you say, showing really good pace. I think he was only about half a tenth off in that first session, maybe about sort of 7 hundredths off. So we will find out because, of course, when it comes down to one lap, who can handle that pressure the most? They are both very like stern characters. So I'm sure they can obviously both put in some good laps.
And Risto is also like, they are actually polar opposites. The more I think about this, the more they are just polar opposites. Risto is like ice cool, super calm. I mean, he's Estonian. He's basically got no fire in his blood. And so the idea of like him nailing just a qualifying, just be like, yeah, I'll go there and do it. Kevin Siggy is the exact opposite. He has fire running everywhere.
Aggression.
He's got a lot better at controlling now, but I do remember having raced him quite a lot over the last 10 years. He does get a little bit red misty. The thing is, if I would lean more to like Kevin Siggy is probably the more likely to make a mistake, but it depends how confident he's feeling. If he's confident, stay away from Kevin Siggy.
Yeah,
he's terrifying.
You might be right on that. If it comes down to like your average lap, Kappa will probably do a fairly similar lap time, but Zeggy might just have the edge. But if he's slightly off it or makes a mistake, then therefore he'll go slightly behind. So it's going to be a very close battle, I think. And to be honest, all of these 4 quarterfinals that we're going to see are going to be close. I'm hoping it's literally going to be thousandths of a second that it comes down to. And as we're basically saying, both drivers will be on track at the same time. And they'll basically do their laps, and then we'll, of course, see who does the faster. It's a super pole situation. You have to do it on this lap, otherwise you get knocked out, and then your time goes to your grid position.
Yeah, certainly so. And, of course, for anyone kind of thinking back to maybe last year when we did the London final, Kevin Siggy was not actually one of the drivers that did the London final. I was actually really surprised by this, but he never made it. I don't think he even tried, to be fair. Like, I think that was the main thing. I think he would have got there if he'd have tried, going through the qualifying process that was last year. So it's great to see him back in Formula E Accelerate. Of course, did quite well back in the first season of Formula E Accelerate. Did really well in the race home challenge as well. Of course, he's been through a few different brands, but Accelerate is where we're at now. I'm really glad to see him back.
Absolutely. He's a great driver, great talent, and it always does well. Obviously, for Team Redline, obviously does a lot with them and is competing in so many competitions. And the fact that he can obviously therefore be fast in all of them is very good. And this type of racing, I think, will suit his driving style.
Yeah. No, I think he's really good on energy for some reason. He's always been good on fuel and things like that. He has also had a pole position in Formula E Accelerate back in 2021. There were 3 people that had pole positions in that year. 2 of them went the way to Erhan Yovski. 1 went to Kevin Siggy, and 3 went, of course, it's Freddie Rasmussen.
And those are the drivers that you would expect, though, to be honest.
Yeah, of that grid, for sure. Being told, by the way, they are out on the track doing their warm-up lap and building up to the first of our duels. Again, fastest lap wins. There is no lap time on the board. You're not keeping your lap time from the previous qualifying. You're starting again.
Yeah, so they can both spin and make mistakes and be 10 seconds lap slower. It's just whoever gets the fastest out of this specific duel is what's going to be going through. So it's going to be a very exciting one to see how this one works out. As we said, it's going to be 4 quarters and therefore 2 semis and a final coming up to do the top positions in qualifying.
Yep, Risto Capit then versus Kevin Siggy. Bracket qualifying, however you want to classify it. We are in the quarter-finals. Who is going to come out on top between these two and move on into the semis? They might have to find out who they're fighting with in there as well. It is a very difficult process to get to pole position here because you effectively have to nail 4 perfect laps. You have to get 1 from the group qualifying, and then 1 from the quarters, 1 from the semis, and then 1 in that final as well. It is immensely difficult. Let's see what Kevin Siggy can do then as he comes out of the final corner and up towards the line. He's on his outlap right now. Oh, no, sorry, he sets his time at a 1:41. That's actually really good for this kind of session.
Certainly is. Capit there sliding. Oh, massively out of final corner. I don't think that's going to be the lap for Capit. Kevin Siggy might be moving already through to the first semi-final. Yeah, Capit half a second off. Huge mistake there in the final corner. That is, just how it goes in these Super Pole situations. And as we were saying, if Ziggy's on it, he's fast. And to be just 1/10 off a lap where you have all the sort of calmness of a qualifying session to build up to it, that's not too bad.
Yep, so Risto Capit knocked out. And there we go. Shows what I know, because I said that he would have been the one that wouldn't have made that mistake. So shows what I know. So they'll reset it, and then we'll see the second of the duels, the second of the quarterfinals. So Kevin Siggy's progressing his way through. That's sorted. That's set. Wonder who's going to be progressing here. James Baldwin versus Freddie Rasmussen is next.
This is a big one. Of course, 2 very famous sim racers. So let's see how this one goes. Of course, the money really is on Rasmussen. So let's see. I believe they're going to be coming onto their laps as we speak. And let's see who can come out on top in a 1-lap shootout, warming up the tyres for the final couple of corners.
Yep, certainly. So I'm trying to keep track of it as well, as we'll see Rasmussen come out of the penultimate corner and up towards the final corner where he will begin his lap. So you can see him run all the way wide, bring it back in, punch it onto the start-finish straight. And again, it's that 1 lap basically wins it at the moment. Yes and no, you can see Kevin Siggy and Risto Capit's lap times up there. Don't worry about them too much. We'll keep you apprised as we go. We know Kevin Siggy is moving his way through. Who's going to be joining him? Is it going to be Baldwin or Rasmussen? I think Baldwin needs Rasmussen to make a mistake. I'll be brutal.
Absolutely. Freddie in the group qualifying did 3.0s back-to-back, basically. So let's see if he can replicate that. And as you say, we don't need to worry about the overall times here. It's just the battle between these 2 specific drivers. Now coming down in towards the hairpin, nicely braking, actually getting the apex fairly nicely. No wiggling on the exit, really. So that is looking pretty calm so far.
Yeah, through that fast left-hander. Maybe a little bit too much curb on the inside there. Got the direction change done pretty nicely, though, as Rasmussen comes down towards the first of these final 2 hairpins. Slides it in not quite as much as what we saw in group qualifying. Maybe not taking the same level of risk as what he did in group qualifying when you have a second bite of the cherry. Out through the final corner. And again, the lap times I would want to see here, 1:04.1, 1:04.0, something in that vein. Let's see what Rasmussen could do across the line. It's going to be just about a 4-2. That's beatable for Baldwin.
Certainly is. Coming up towards the final corner for the Neo 333 Racing driver. He certainly knows what he's doing, but can he do it on 1 final lap? That looks pretty calm. Is that too calm coming out to the final corner?
It didn't look particularly smooth. Let's see what he does across the line. Is it smooth enough? The answer is no. 2/10 off in that battle. And so he is no longer progressing. It will be Freddie Rasmussen moving on.
Yes, so that is already 2 quarter-finals done. So I assume that might be the semi-final one that we will see, but we will certainly find out. But that just shows you how quick things can change around all of a sudden. Baldwin and Capit out of qualifying.
So that is 2 of our quarterfinals dealt with. We know that Siggy will be progressing. We know that Rasmussen will be progressing through. Rasmussen's still got that weight of the being the favourite. We'll have to wait and see. Next one, by the way, will be Marcel Czincik and Marko Pajic going toe to toe.
That's quite a nice battle as well, as you say. Pajic, he's on very good form. Very good form. He's won some top quality races in recent weeks, and of course, Czincik, he's always fast. I don't know how he does it, but every competition I see him in, he's always at the top. Like, can they do this in quarterfinal number 3?
Yeah, I don't know. There was something about. It was Simincic rather not Czincik. Sorry, that is my apologies there. We'll discuss Czincik a little later on. Don't worry about it. But Jerne Simincic then will be taking on Marko Pajic, one German versus the Slovenian. And we'll see what Pajic will do. I mean, to be fair, kind of same thing applies here. Is that Pajic's form recently has been fantastic. Simincic's form has been. I know you're a burst boy, being the team that he's a part of. I'm going to be brutal here. I think Simincic has been a little average recently.
I would tend to agree with that.
He's been busy. Papa Simincic.
Yeah, obviously just recently a father is Simincic, but he hasn't actually been doing as many competitions. We've been saying some of these drivers, they're doing every single competition. I mean, they're racing last night, quite a few of these drivers, and then jumping into a different sim, a different car. It is very difficult indeed. Pajic, missing the braking zone a little bit, missing the apex. That's going to be losing a bit of time.
Yeah, certainly. So, see what he's like through this corner. Ooh, into the barrier. Pajic has just misjudged it a little bit. I thought he was leaning like a little wide there, going through turn 7. Grazes the barrier. The damage won't be too bad. There is damage on, so they will have a little bit of suspension damage, but it won't be too bad. It's not going to rip the wheel off. It should be absolutely fine to complete this lap time. Again, aiming for that 104 low. Let's go with a 0.1, 0.0, something like that across the line. He goes 4th position. It's a 104.5, basically.
Oh, yeah, that is beatable from Simincic. Simincic out to the final corner for Abt Cupra, doing the shortest run to the line. He's 15th place at the moment. Where does he put himself up towards 2nd place? That's nice.
That is a 104.1, just about. And so Pajic is no more. Simincic is the one that moves through. And that means, by the way, that our next one, I do believe, will be Jake Dennehan versus Marcel Czincik.
Can Dennehan repeat that lap? Was it a one-lap wonder in Group B qualifying? We'll have to see. Can he replicate it? Because, as I said, when you have 10 minutes to build up to it, you can always, get there 10th by 10th. But let's see what Dennehan can do, and if Czincik Czincik, I should say, use his experience against him.
Yeah, we're not going to mix them up too much. Don't worry about it.
I'll try not.
We do commentate on Czincik and Simincic quite a lot. To be fair, I don't think I've commentated on Czincik and Simincic in the same championship for a while.
Yeah, and not often you have to say them so close together.
Yeah, right. Yeah, obviously names in sim racing are difficult. That's why a lot of people in esports and stuff go off gamer tags and stuff, but I'm not even going to get started on that. I don't want to see that in sim racing. It's too hard to follow.
Names are better.
Yeah,
for racing.
For what we're doing, yeah, for our purposes, yes, indeed. And names, you build your name, don't you? And that could be exactly what Jake Dennehan is doing in this style of competition. You're absolutely right. Is it a one-hit? Was it a one-hit wonder? Was it that sort of flash in the pan in that group qualifying? I think we've both had laps like that where you kind of do it and you think, where did that come from, and why can't I repeat it?
Yeah, sometimes you just get the slide absolutely perfect on the limit of the tyre, and that, of course, means you're going to... oh, that's a huge slide there by Czincik there, coming out of turn 6, probably just trying to warm up the tyres. I believe this is still there, warm-up lap, looking at how he is driving. Certainly. And we, of course, will get the one-lap wonder for the final quarter-final, see who goes through into the semis. Yeah,
we've had Simincic go through, we've had Rasmussen go through, we've had Siggy go through, which, by the way, looking at those three, I'm like... Yes, okay. As a big old sim racing fan, I am all over it. Who is going to join those three? Will it be Dennehan? Will it be Czincik? Across the line, Czincik will go to start his lap time, ties up the temperature into this really, really long left-hander. It's about 270 degrees going through turn 1. It is brutal. Wow, that was a slide.
I hope this is his out lap, because if that's his hot lap, then he has lost a lot of time there.
I think it's his hot
Jake
lap.
Dennehan, 7 and 8. Yeah, he is committed. This is way too much sliding. I don't think this is going to be the lap for him.
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, maybe this is where he got the 104.0 from. Who knows? I mean, obviously, if he's sliding in that much, like I say, he's straight lining effectively the exit at turn 6. Didn't quite do it as aggressively at T9 down down towards the final corner. It certainly is a hot lap from Jake Dennehan, who's going to throw down the gauntlet towards the Hungarian of Marcel Cinčić. Dennehan up toward the line, again aiming for that low 1:04. He goes into 6th place in the overall session with a 1:04 point, nearly a 6.
That I don't think is going to be enough. I think Cinčić here can just do it nicely out to the final corner. I would assume even a pretty average lap might be enough there. Dennehan just making too many mistakes. Up towards the line, can he complete it? Does Marcel Cinčić go through? Yes, he does. He is the 4th and final driver into the semis.
Yep, so unfortunately for Dennehan, whilst he did put on a very impressive performance, his progression in this is no more. We'll see him back out in the race. Let's not panic too much, shall we? But it's a bit of a shame there because that would have been a pretty nice story. So Cinčić, you've ruined everything.
And that just shows you maybe it was a one-lap wonder in qualifying. You never know. So we'll have to see him obviously coming from sort of around this 6th, 7th, 8th place in qualifying when we get to the grid when we get into the race. But of course, we still have 2 semis and then the final duel coming your way. You
were concerned about saying Jene Simičić and Marcel Cinčić so close together again. Well, we will have to do that because they will be the 2nd semi-final. That'll be difficult. That's fine. But that means that our first semi-final will be Kevin Siggy versus Freddie Rasmussen. Now, this is kind of the one that I'm looking at being like, yeah, that's a final, dude. That is an absolute final duel.
I mean, to be fair, all 4 of those drivers you could almost say that with as well, but definitely in terms of what we've seen previously in the Accelerate and the Race from Home Challenge, etc., these 2, Rasmussen and Siggy, they've always been to the top, and the only person missing from there really is Jojowski, unfortunately. Yeah,
that is a big shame. Well, it's going to be that kind of like what could have been from Jojowski. I did think Pev as well, I believe, is also missing. I didn't see him out in Group 1. Unfortunately, that is just the way it is. So Pev and Erhan Jojowski being the 2 that are missing is why we've only got a 20-car grid. Not 100% sure as to why, but again, regardless, fingers crossed that all is okay on both sides and that maybe it's just a miscommunication on timing. Maybe someone's slept in. I mean, I know someone who's missed stints before in the commentary booth who's been as fast asleep.
Yeah, absolutely. For this sort of racing, like you'd hope they would know, obviously the start times and stuff. But of course, it is possible to miss. This is life. They are racing from their, their home setting, their rigs, their office, potentially in some of these for some of these people. So things can happen, and that is obviously just racing.
I don't think that it was overslept. I mean, Bulgaria is +1, right? And Macedonia, I think. Even. Yeah, but even still, +1, +2, whatever. Basically, this event would have started at sort of like 11, 12 o'clock in the morning. If you're oversleeping that, I mean, clearly you're a university student.
You've had a good
night. Yeah, right. Yeah, goodness me. I was going to kind of say, just very swiftly whilst we're kind of on this topic, I was going to say, with Pev, I wonder where he's ended up sim racing-wise, because obviously before Zilla. Maybe this would have been like a really good event for him to have done, to have thrown himself back into the limelight.
Forzilla is an interesting one because they are still about, like in some way, but I know the team is kind of like folded as well. So I'm not sure,
very
but
bizarre.
he is still, to be honest, a pretty good talent. So I'm sure another team will pick him up quite swiftly because, as ever, teams always looking for more drivers and more top quality drivers to obviously compete in these championships and represent them. But here we go for semi-final number 1.
Yeah, we've got Siggy versus Rasmussen. Again, the lap times from each of these in the previous session. Kevin Siggy did a 1:04.1. Rasmussen did a 1:04.2. But do remember that Rasmussen did do a 1:04.0 in the group qualifying. For anyone who's never seen this style of qualifying before when it comes to the duels, if you've not watched Formula E, I mean, definitely tune in. Qualifying's already done. Obviously, the race will be coming up a little bit later on. I think I'm probably going to have to stick it on radio-wise in the car on the way back home after this, because it's going to be an absolutely thrilling instalment to the ABB Formula E World Championship. Into the final corner then, Kevin Siggy will go. And let's see what he can do. Kick of oversteer, almost losing a little bit of time straight away.
Yeah, not the best exit. That will lose a few thousandths down towards turn 1. Is that going to be an important few thousandths? We will find out. These are obviously the 2 big guns going out in this first semi-final. They are battling, of course, to get towards the final duel, where they'll be battling for the extra 3 points for pole position as well.
going through this short shoot between turn 3 up towards 4, now through 5 and onto this back stretch where this is where the cars go at their absolute fastest around this circuit, up to speeds above 240 kilometers an hour, which you may think from a racing car perspective, when you've seen the speeds they do in Formula 1 where they're up to 200 miles an hour, over 320k, you might think that's not actually that fast. Think of how short that run is from turn 5 to turn 6. It is not a long run. These cars are rapid. And I've got to say, by the way, I was very critical of how the Gen 3 car looked when it first got announced. Now that I've got used to it, I don't mind it. I still prefer Gen 2 Evo, which obviously never got raced, but I do quite like the Gen 3 car now.
Yeah, certainly, and it's working wonders for the racing that we're getting with it. So much more powerful, as you say. Ziggy towards the line. What time is he going to put down? It is going to be a 0.25. That might not be enough. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. A 1 minute 4.2. That was what Rasmussen did in the quarterfinals. He'll come over towards the line and do a 4.0. That is classic Rasmussen, doing the lap when he needs it, and Siggy will no longer progress. He will be starting either 3rd or 4th position, dependent on what the lap time of between Chinchik and Simičić is. If that one is faster, then they'll be starting from 3rd, but obviously getting knocked out. We'll get to that, don't worry. Yeah, still a good position, though, for Ziggy. 2nd row of the grid. He can see Rasmussen right in front of him. He can do a little cheeky dive down into turn 1 of the race.
And probably will.
Yeah, probably will, yeah. So all things are still on the table, but of course, getting those extra points starting on the front row is going to be very important. I still remember, I've said it before, and I will say it again, about Kevin Siggy. There was one time when his level of confidence, he'll know that he can still win this race, and it was the race at home challenge, of course, before we did Accelerate, so it's back in 2020, and we did a race at Monaco. And I remember what he said, that he got an interview before the race after he got pole position, and they were like, so what do you think you can do from the race? And he went, well, I think I'm going to get a good start. I'm going to lead into turn 1. I'm going to win the race. And they were like, well, okay then. And moved on. And guess what he did? Sent it. He had a good start to the race. He led the first lap and won the race. He just dominated it. But it was that self-confidence, that bravery to say it and to have that self-belief. And he did it. And I get the thing that, when he's got that methodology, he is a very tough cookie to beat. But he's not going to be progressing through into the finals here in qualifying, so he's not going to be fighting for pole position and those all-important extra points. We instead will see one of these go toe-to-toe with Freddie Rasmussen. Marcel Chinchik's not come out of pit lane just yet. He certainly does now. So Jene Simičić will be the first one round to start his lap time. You can see how aggressive he is at warming up those tyres. You can kind of have the space to do that when you know that car behind. Obviously, they're miles behind. You've got basically the track to yourself. Yeah, they get sort of like 30 seconds gap between them, so they've got plenty of clean air, as you say, and you can just warm up the tyres. There's no slowing down at the final corner like we see quite a few times. This is obviously quite a grudge match. Both top-level drivers, they're champions in various championships over the years. They know what they are doing, but can they get through to the final here for the Berlin Major? Let's see. Simičić out onto the front straight away. Quite a lot of wheel spin there. So I don't know if he's going to be losing a bit of time. Yeah, similar to what we saw from Kevin Siggy in the previous semi-final. Bit of sparks coming off the rear end, heading down into that first corner. Again, just finding it, just feeding the wheel in, letting the car do what it's doing as you're slowing, scrubbing off the speed, gradually through that first corner as you're turning all the way through that 270 degrees, then through 2, through 3, through 4 and 5, where we're just on board with now, up towards turn 6. It's looking tidy so far. I know there was that poor exit from the final corner, but it is still looking tidy. This could be definitely a time challenging towards the 1 minute 4.1s. I absolutely agree. That was a nice hairpin as well through this fast chicane. Gets a pretty nice apex. Doesn't slide too much. Gets a good run through 8 as well. That is looking very nice from Simičić. Just 2 corners to go. He did a 104.1 in the quarter-final when he beat Marko Pajic. He did a 104.5. That was faster than Marcel Chinchik's 104.2. And so there is the advantage potentially swaying towards the Slovenian, who's leaving the final corner now, all the way over to that wall on the right-hand side. He's going to throw down the benchmark, and it is going to be a 104.212.
That is in that beatable range.
Certainly is, and Marcel knows what he's doing up towards the final corner. Can he get a good run? Can he get a good exit, not lose any thousandths of a second towards the start-finish line? Pretty decent exit.
Looked a little too casual, if I'm honest, through turn 10. Let's see what Chinchik will do across the line. It wasn't too casual. It was a 4:007. Absolute barnstorming lap time there from the Hungarian, who crosses the line to set the fastest lap time of the semi-finals, and to not only throw the gauntlet down to Jene Simoncic, who's been knocked out there, but also to Freddie Rasmussen. Anything you can do, I can do better, Marcel Chinchik says. What's Rasmussen's reply?
Yeah, you're saying almost a bit casual at the final corner, but I think that's because it was perfectly on the limit. Just the right amount of slide to get the car to rotate, but also to get the drive as well. Perfect. And I would have assumed he did that pretty much at every corner to do a point, well, almost a 0.3.
I think, was it Nicky Lauda that said, if I look like I'm going fast, I'm not? Which is a great sentiment to anyone who's new to racing, whether it's sim racing, esports, karting, whatever it is. If you're seeing a car that's sliding its way through every single corner, it looks cool, but that is all wasted energy, wasted speed. And so the calmer the lap, generally speaking, the faster the lap. And that's why I was bad at sim racing.
Yeah, the fastest way, obviously, around the track is in a straight line. So that also means straight, as in the perfect radius around the corner. So if you're sliding, you're having a lateral movement away from the ideal line, and therefore is slower. So yeah, that just looked perfect, to be fair. We only saw one corner of it, unfortunately, but just amazing lap there by Chinchik. Sorry.
Lateral movement. That's how we can tell that you've got yourself a degree. Have you got?
I do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I thought
in
so.
motorsport as well. I should know what I'm talking about.
I know. And that's why you're a commentator now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just have to fire the odd shot every now and then. It feels brutal. Of course, when we go through into the race itself, it is a full distance for Maria, so there's going to be regen, there's going to be all of that, right?
Absolutely, yes. So the cars will obviously regen under braking. Also, you can lift off to use less power and that sort of thing. The slipstream as well. With how fast these cars are now, the slipstream is going to be a factor in that. So we're going to see quite a lot of driver strategy with where they put themselves. Sometimes being leading at the front for so long is actually worse because you effectively use a little bit more power than your competitors behind. So just because we're going to see this qualifying order, that doesn't mean someone from P10 even can't win the race. Because if they manage their energy well and they get a couple of % extra in the final couple of laps, they can push harder and go to the front.
Yeah, absolutely, and it will be a thrilling race. Like I say, it's so Formula E that you could just win it from the front or the back. Before we get into the race, though, we've got to decide who's going to be on pole position, and who is it going to be? Marcel Chinchik will be the first one out. Rasmussen will be the second. The two-time Formula E Accelerate champion trying to fend off the charge of Marcel Chinchik. Like we were saying it a bit earlier on, there is something since Chinchik has signed for R8G, was it a year and a half ago now, along with Yuri Toman, who he's been close mates with for a while. There has been something about how the pair of them two have clicked at Roman Grosjean's esports team that just really work. Did you see him bonk the wall there?
I did.
Okay.
Hopefully he doesn't have any steering damage. Shouldn't really affect him either way, but coming up towards the line, this is the final. This is for the pole position and extra points to come with it.
Yeah, indeed. Let's take a look all the way around with Marcel Chinchik after that incredible lap in the semi-final, the second of the semi-finals, into that first corner. Just perfectly judged through there, through 2, through 3 now, and out onto this little chute up towards turn 4, which is so much tighter than it looks. You have to keep it going left because you've got the wall there on the right-hand side before we head out onto that back stretch. Follow the rubber in line and pull it back over to the right-hand side as we head down into the turn 6 hairpin. We'll be seeing a lot of action into here a little bit later on in the race because of attack mode being on the outside. Chinchik kicks it out of there. It's looking smooth into turn 7.
Certainly, as this is pretty much on the limit as we saw on the previous lap, just getting the slides to basically the limit of the tyres before they start to give up. A nice late apex as well, a little bit wide though, coming up towards the final corner. Decent exit, can he hold it through the final corner?
Wow, it is looking like a tidy lap time from Marcel Chinchik. How smooth is he through the final corner? Once again, it's as smooth as he was in his semi-final attempt, out towards the wall, leaving almost nothing left on the race circuit. What does Chinchik do across the line? It's a 4.119. It is a tenth slower than what he did in the previous session. Again, it's in that beatable range towards Freddie Rasmussen, who's coming down to turn 6.
Yeah, Rasmussen has already done 3 or 4.0s throughout this qualifying session so far. Can he do it one final time? He's just got 4 corners to go. This massively fast chicane. He doesn't slide anywhere near as much as Chinchik there through that corner. That could be a pretty good omen to what we're going to see in a few corners' time. Coming into the hairpin, a nice slide there actually as well. This is also on the limit.
Yeah, that was tidy. It was just like that rear end kick out. It was just so pretty when you get it right. A little bit wide there through 10, not quite hooking onto those awkward little curbs is what Marcel Chinchik did, but it could still be fast for Freddie Rasmussen. The Dane comes up towards the line and it's not faster than Marcel Chinchik. Freddie Rasmussen has to settle for second. No pole position for him as Marcel Chinchik does the business with a 104.119. Mega stuff from the Hungarian.
And that just shows you can actually slow down and still get pole position in this format, which is pretty crazy. Still a great lap with the 0.1, and obviously Rasmussen just couldn't do it. We didn't see the first half of his lap, so I maybe made just a little bit of a mistake there off camera. But yeah, these guys push into the limit, and in the end, I would say surprising. I thought Chinchik would have been 4th out of the 4 we saw in the semi-finals.
Yeah, between Siggy, Rasmussen, Simoncic and Chinchik, no, I thought it would be very, very close, but I would also agree. I think he would probably have been 4th of those. Instead, he is starting this one from pole position. We won't be going anywhere too far, but we'll just be stepping aside a little bit as we build up towards the Berlin Major, the first of the Formula E Accelerate Championship of 2023. Well, race time is almost upon us here as we get ready for Formula E Accelerate's brand new championship for 2023. It's the Berlin Major. Qualifying has been complete, and it is Marcel Chinchik, of all people, starting from pole position. My name is Lewis McGlade. Alongside me is Cameron Roger. Of course, we'll be guiding you through not only the season, but today's action as well. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of action.
We certainly are. We've got a full-length Formula E race coming your way, so about 45 minutes of action. Obviously, the strategy of the energy saving and the management of that is going to be very important with how the drivers work their way through the race. And, of course, we saw qualifying just a few minutes ago. That is obviously going to be important, but you can still come from a few places back to win the race.
Certainly so. Let's take a look at a little more at the circuit that we're racing at, of course, here in Berlin, the Tempelhof. It's fantastic little circuit. Obviously, it's been raced since the first season of Formula E, on and off in various different layouts. Of course, the start finish here in the first sector leads into this 270-degree left-hander, then a tight hairpin, and another tight little left-hander onto that backstretch that goes into Sector 2. Now, Sector 2 is for me, the really, really important one. This is the one that is the home of attack mode. We'll be seeing a lot of this throughout the race, and also that stretch leading into it is the fastest stretch on the circuit with speeds over 240 kilometers an hour, even in the race. Great overtaking opportunity, and it all builds up to that tricky left-hand sweep on the way out of it at turn 7. The third and final sector sees 2 hairpins. Brilliant overtaking opportunities between the 2 of those in Sector 3. That big dive down at the penultimate one and that big dive into the final cam. They're both fantastic overtaking opportunities, but maybe, just maybe, that first of the 2 hairpins is a little bit too tight for a big dive.
Yeah, the apex is basically just like one concrete barrier, so that you're going around is it's a very tight corner, and the track is really in 3 sections, as you say. So the first part is like the tight and twisty section. The middle part is sort of the flowing, the faster corner section, and then of course you finish the lap with these 2 hairpins again. So you've really got to nail the different styles of corners at those parts of the track. And as you say, attack mode is on the outside of the hairpin on the far bottom right of your screen. They'll have to go off the line, way out onto the basically where the runoff is to activate that, so they lose time to then gain it back with the extra power.
Did go and see the old layout from like 2015, whenever it was.
Hilarious.
Awful. Absolutely terrible. This layout is really, really tidy. They've obviously gone through a lot of iterations. I remember speaking to Alan McNish back in 2020 when I did Le Mans Virtual, and this was when they did 6 races in Berlin, and they basically did it head-to-head, back-to-back days of one doing the standard layout. Then they did back-to-back days of a different layout, the same layout reversed, and then did back-to-back days after that of a slightly different layout. And I was like, how is that even possible? And he said, well, because they're FIA Grade 3 circuits, what Formula E has to adhere to, which means that they don't have to go through the rigorous scrutiny that they do in Formula 1, which means that they can kind of almost have carte blanche to do whatever they want with the tracks. And I like that Formula E's starting to find its real, like, sort of niche with the tracks, because some of the circuits are really good.
They certainly are, and especially as the tracks get faster, they might have to modify the tracks. And as you say, the fact that they have the ability to do that is good. And Tempelhof here is basically just like a big mass of concrete, so they can put the barriers wherever they want. So this location should be good for years to come for them to expand and develop it. And obviously we're on the normal layout, as you say. We've had it for quite a few years now, so the drivers and the teams, everyone knows it very well, but it seems to always produce good races.
When's the first Formula E loop-de-loop coming? Never?
What, like Hot Wheels?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No.
Not anytime soon.
We'll move on from that. Any crazy ideas, drop them in the comments. We'll take a look at the starting grid then for our first race of the season, the Berlin Major. And we can see, again, Marcel Chinchik with that fantastic qualifying will start himself from pole position ahead of Freddie Rasmussen on the front row. Jerne Simoncic and Kevin Siggy will start on the second row of the grid. James Bolden was the fastest of the quarterfinalists. He'll be starting from 5th alongside his genuine genuine teammate. Obviously, they both race for Mercedes outside of this championship. Marco Pates that'll be starting from 6th. Then Peter Berjak and Jake Dennehan, who did a fantastic job to get through. Risto Capit, Graham Carroll, Isaac Gillison, the top 11. Gianmarco Fiducci, Bonner House down in 13th position. My goodness me. Martin Mogili, Davin Morocek, Moritz Lerner as well down in 16th. I know he had a couple of struggles to the start of the race and is near McLaren over the previous week. Lorenz Herzing will start from 17th position. Then Liam Deval, Jacob Reed and Manuel Bianca Lilla will be the 20 starters to this. Unfortunately, we'll not see Pejepev and Erhan Yayovsky representing Apt Cupra and DS Penske. I am being told that Pejepev actually has been able to make it to the race. He wasn't able to do qualifying, but he is able to do the race.
We were joking that maybe he overslept. Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. Unfortunately, Hanyovsky is scratched off the list, sadly enough. So again, fingers crossed, all is well for you, Erhan. And we get to see a Pejepev starting from the back of the grid. I've seen Pejepev drive. You know exactly where I'm leading with this.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
He will find gaps that do not exist.
For sure.
And that's going to be good, though, because as much as obviously it's somewhat of a sprint race, and obviously they're fighting, for prize money, they're fighting to get to the London final in July. We want to see some action throughout the race. We want to see people taking the risks, and even if you're maybe not quite going to get to that top place anyway, you still got to be fighting for the positions around you.
With qualifying done, Cam, leaning towards anyone else other than Freddie Rasmussen? Or are we still leaning that way? Marcel Cinčić had some great speed. Jone Simoncic, Kevin Siggy's starting from 4th and is feeling pretty aggressive.
I rate Simoncic's strategy, though, as in like his ability to do maths on the fly with the energy calculations and that sort of stuff. He's very good at having that extra brain power to do that. So I definitely am obviously rooting for him a little bit as well. But to be honest, you'd be silly to bet against Rasmussen.
Yeah, I'm sure zero bias in there as well towards Simoncic. It's fine. I completely agree with Simoncic. The amount of stuff that he can have going on in his head is fantastic. Well, the race is actually underway, and we're racing down towards the first corner. Marcel Cinčić had a better start than Freddie Rasmussen. Jone Simoncic going out a little bit wide and opening the door for Kevin Siggy to slot his way down the inside. And it's going to give him the outside coming out on the this little back stretch coming up towards turn 4. I think Simoncic might have just been able to fend off Siggy as the two Slovenians go toe-to-toe.
Side-by-side down this back straightaway. Actually, I think they're still side-by-side on the exit of turn 5 there. They've lost a lot of time to do going side-by-side through that sequence of corners, and Simoncic seems to hold on, though.
Yeah, the first of 40 laps, let's not forget. There's plenty of time. They've already lost 2 seconds in their battling. Neither of them wanted to settle there for what would be 3rd position at the moment and think bigger picture here. Again, I know energy systems will bring them back into it just a touch, but that was a big, big moment between Jone Simoncic and Kevin Siggy. There's some dramas in the midfield. Gianmarco Fiducci's moving his way back up the order after I think a bit of a tussle with himself and Bunner House. Lorenz Herzing, Peter Berjak's dropped back to 20th. Meanwhile, Pev's gone from 21st to 16th.
Yeah, amazing. That just shows you how tight it is. We get one, I think, of the Jaguar there, diving it down the inside in the mid-pack there, trying to make up some positions, and that just shows you how opportunistic you have to be. But do look out on the bottom right of your screen. You're going to see a lot of lifting and coasting as we have drivers already out. We've got Mergley in the pit lane. Deval's gone to the back of the field. Yeah,
there's clearly been a very sizable issue for Martin Mergili. He's returned his way into pit lane. Obviously, after completing the first lap, the Tag Heuer fastest lap will go its way of Marcel Cinčić. He was the first to cross the line. So that's all well and good. A 1:08, don't worry about it too much. They'll be heading down towards the 4s and 5s. Let's see if anyone else can get themselves into the mix. It's all calmed down now. I do get the feeling Jone Simoncic might burn a little energy here to try and close his way up to Freddie Rasmussen.
It's such a difficult game with the energy management. The reason why is because if you start to push, the rate that you push or the gain that you get from pushing, you lose way more power to do that. It's not a proportional scale. So to go faster, you have to get exponentially more power. Therefore, if you start to push, even just to gain a second on the cars ahead, you're going to be losing just way too much percent. So you really have to think about how you're going to manage this race.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I think, because we can pull up the energy percentage, I think we'll leave it a few. I kind of want to see this unfold. And I like that bit of, we'll wait until like lap 10 and then we'll have a little look, see where everyone's standing, see if we can work out what exactly is going on at the moment. On board with Manuel Biancalilla inside that top 10. Jake Dennehan lost out a single position. I think that would be to Graham Carroll, who's worked his way up to 7th position. Of course, whilst I said of James Baldwin and Marco Pajic being teammates at the Mercedes AMG esports team, well, Graham Carroll is also a driver for them, and there's 3 of them there.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the bottom right there. Chinchik with the Tag Heuer fastest lap, a 4.4. That's almost a qualifying lap in the race.
That's
when
mega.
We're expecting them to be saving. He's obviously pushing to try and get a gap in this first part of the race.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was almost Rasmussen coming into the pit lane. Yeah, that is an insanely fast lap time. Looking to get the Tag Heuer fastest lap early in this session. Yeah, that's very impressive. See if Freddie Rasmussen can keep up. Maybe it's kind of one of those things of like, this is what I absolutely adore about these kind of races. Because I'd be sat there being like, the energy races, they're boring. It's all about saving this and saving that and saving this. But there is something about how they're done in Formula E that it's next level. It's so much fun because there is so much strategy to it. When you think about it from Marcel Chinchik's point of view, in his head, he's trying to get in Freddie Rasmussen's head. Being like, okay, if I burn a little bit of energy now, try and pull away, maybe I can get Freddie Rasmussen to burn a little bit extra fuel as Bonnehaus goes for the first attack mode. So he's the first driver to have gone wide at T6 to pick up attack mode. No one else ticking it off just yet. I believe they have to do it twice as the Tag Heuer fastest lap was actually reset by Freddie Rasmussen towards the end with a 104.3.
Yeah, Rasmussen certainly trying to keep up as Simoncic drops off the back of them. And yeah, so with Hauser doing the attack mode, you saw he, believe, lost a place to Giddison there as well. So that just shows you how you go wide, you lose the track position, but then you have a bit of extra power to use when you deploy the attack mode, which generally lasts about 2 minutes, I believe. So definitely some stuff to be gained back, and everyone has to use it, which is the important part.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. You can't just not use it. You have to use it. Unfortunately, sad for Martin Merguli, obviously representing Jaguar TCS Racing here, no longer participating in this event. He is the first retirement of the brand new Formula E Accelerate Championship season as we continue on the racing. This is on board with Bonnehaus, who on the previous lap went wide at this corner, intentionally though. As you can see ahead of him, Isaac Gillison is the next one to try and do so. Nailed it. By the way, that is actually really quite tricky to do. Moritz Lerner also down into attack mode, Pev down into attack mode as well. It's really hard to go wide there and not go too wide and effectively cancel the attack mode.
Especially as the location on this track is on the outside of a corner, so you basically have to brake later than normal to actually get yourself into that part of the track. So it's you have to practice it, to be honest. You gain tenths of a second there. As we've seen House there, he's just got 30 seconds left of the 2 minutes that he had. But of course, the difficult part for him now is Gillison's used it in defence to now also have the extra power himself.
Do you know how many times they have to use it in the race? Because if it's the same as Formula E, then it's 8 minutes total, which would be 4 attempts through attack mode.
I believe it's twice, but we will soon find out.
I think it is twice of 2 minutes in this, because obviously it would be twice of 4 minutes in Formula E itself. Not 100% sure on that one, as we see Bonnehaus's attack mode comes to a close. Was not able to take full advantage of it on the attack of Isaac Gillison, because he obviously had attack mode himself. There is Gianmarco Fiducci, the next one down there, and well, he will just about be able to keep the Nissan Formula E team in play. This is kind of how it's going to go. Gianmarco Fiducci's done it. Manuel Biancalilla will be like, right, there's a gap behind. I've got to go for it. And as the race will go on, they'll just basically, you'll see there's a gap behind me. I've got to go for it now. Yeah,
as soon as you get that sort of 2.5 second gap behind you, that's really when you need to take it so you don't lose track position. Because, of course, in the ideal world, you take it. And in the case of Fiducci, you now have a clear track ahead of you to use that extra power. Gillison, though, he's running out of his already. 30 seconds left. Lerner as well, Pev. They all haven't really gained so much from that. But as you said, it's more of a fact that everyone has to use it. So everyone gets their loss rather than everyone gets the gain.
Do you think Freddie Rasmussen should go for his attack mode now? There's 3 seconds to the car behind of Jene Simoncic.
I think he wants to keep the pressure on Chinchik, to be honest. I think he's going to be waiting for that. And also, he's stopping Chinchik use it, because the closer that he is, he's going to stop Marcel from having that 2 second gap.
Phenomenal drive so far from Marcel Chinchik as Baldwin, Pajic and Carroll. I was thinking, I was like, if one of them's going to go, surely all 3. They will all be in communication. The Mercedes drivers, like I say, they're well in tune with each other, all 3 of them. I don't know how much Marco Pajic and Graham Carroll will try and fight each other or fight Baldwin. I think they'll probably all just settle for now and play the longer game.
Yeah, this is one thing, of course, with sim racing esports. There are bigger teams involved as such. Obviously, they're representing the official ABB Formula E teams, but they themselves, for instance, as you're saying, they're part of the official AMG Petronas esports team. So they know what they're doing together. They'll be working together. They'll be working on the setups, on the strategy. As you say, probably even talking to each other during the race. And having that extra level of communication means that you can just control the race that little bit better.
Yeah, like I say, you kind of, in a championship like this, you want as many drivers out on the grid as possible that will be in your favour. For example, RHG, now generally they would have Erhan Yovsky out there as well, as Risto Capit and Marcel Chinchik and potentially even Yuri Temin as well. It's a bit of a mistake there from Gianmarco Viducci, maybe unsighted, watching Manuel Biancalilla go for the attack mode. Couple of scrappy corners coming in from the feisty Italian, more of a touring car racer, but at the moment Gianmarco Viducci is seeming to struggle just a touch.
Yeah, just a little bit, and of course you've got to be careful not to overheat those rear tyres, otherwise you will be, of course, spinning the cars. We've seen a couple of drivers almost do in qualifying, but you cannot get away with that during a 40-lap race, where we're already getting towards a quarter of the way onto lap 9 now, and as it sounds, Chinchik still leading the way by 1.5 seconds. Rasmussen hasn't let him get away, but also hasn't dropped back. Yeah,
indeed, as we'll see that left-hander be taken from Manuel Biancalilla. Looking back to James Baldwin, who is closing in just a touch on Kevin Siggy, who of course has not been down attack mode. So Baldwin's used attack mode and has closed back up to Kevin Siggy, meaning when Siggy goes for it, Siggy will drop behind at the moment as Freddie Rasmussen does finally go for it, losing that 1 second delta. Siggy has gone for it, but Baldwin went straight for it as well.
The Mercedes drivers are using it twice in a row in short succession.
They're trying to get it done.
Yeah, they're trying to get it out of the way. So what they're obviously seeing is you get more of a loss from doing it more than a gain. So they want to do it when they have the space behind them available, and they've got both of them out of the way, have those 3 Mercedes drivers.
Yeah, that is mega for them to have got it done, because Graham Carroll obviously had the gap. He'll be like shouting to, well, obviously not actually on the track, don't worry about it, they'll be on Discord or TeamSpeak or something. He doesn't have to yell a few metres ahead, but Graham Carroll will be telling James Baldwin, look, I've got the gap, let's do it now, let's go. And then all 3 of them, bam, straight down into the attack mode. No pit stops expected in this race. If you go into pit lane, it's because you've had an issue. All but a naughty boy. There is that. Here is a bit of side-by-side between Pev and Pev and Deval as they come across the line. Deval able to hang on with attack mode in hand, of course.
Yeah, Pev obviously dropping down a little bit of contact between the two through turn 1 and 2. Wheel banging, and definitely more contact that you would like to see. They're still side-by-side, actually, coming out to turn 3 up towards turn 4. And Pev's going to have to sit in behind for the next couple of corners. But Deval obviously just has that little bit more power, as we're seeing all of the top drivers now on the attack mode, except Yannis Simicic's Chinchik at the front there takes it in retaliation to make sure that Rasmussen doesn't get him.
Yeah, he did it the previous lap and needed to, because that gap had come down by 3 or 4 tenths. And if he left that for a couple more laps, maybe that gap would be down all the way to 0. Had a little look on board with Moritz Lerner having a couple of issues in this race behind Peter Berliak. As far as I'm aware, by the way, the top 10 are the only ones that score in this race, dependent on pole position and fastest lap, of which there are points awarded. 25 points for the race victor, and then 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, the standard FIA points scores. Which I'm okay with. Ewan O'Leary isn't, because whatever. Get a full-on argument on this broadcast going. I like the points. It's fine.
Yeah, it works pretty well, actually. Obviously, it was introduced, I think, about 2010 was around that era. So it's been in there for, what, 12, coming up to 13 years now that we've been using it, and it seems to work. As Ziggy there takes attack mode, loses the place, though, to Baldwin. So Baldwin, overall, has gained from that strategy. Yeah, that was really smart. So 4th place now going the way of the Mercedes works driver, of course, generally speaking, in the world of sim racing, representing Neo 333 in this race. That was super stuff from James Baldwin. And we were kind of saying that is that he closed up to Kevin Siggy, and he then took the second attack mode. So whenever Kevin Siggy takes his second one, boom, you've already got the position. It was really, really well played from Baldwin. I'm saying it as if that move is now done for the rest of the race. That is definitely not the case, as we head on to the 12th lap of proceedings, and Marcel Chinchik
pulling out even further, up to nearly 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds it was.
Looking so strong, and especially with the way that the point system is a 7-point gap between first and second anyway, plus the 3 points for the pole position. If he gets another for fastest lap potential, though Rasmussen has that at the moment, of course that is going to be a big factor.
Ooh.
Massive slide though, he's definitely pushing, but is he saving enough power? That is really the important factor.
That slide cost him 0.2 of a second, and Freddie Rasmussen and his Tag Heuer Porsche is closing in on the Nissan Formula E team of Marcel Chinchik at the front of this field. I think we will have not just the duel in qualifying, we're having the duel on track in the race between these two, but you're absolutely right. Are they saving enough energy at this point? Are they looking after it? I think we should probably take a little look at the energy if we can and see exactly where people are standing for a brief second. Oh, I'm not sure it is not working, unfortunately, so we can't see that. That's a big shame.
That's good.
We'll have to keep our fingers crossed and hope.
Absolutely. It's good in many ways, though, because it keeps it close. But what you're seeing there with the onboards on the bottom right and the throttle trace, these drivers aren't flat out in the straights. They're lifted then, and what I mean by that is they're not even going to 100% at all. They're obviously working out that they need to be less than that to keep the power usage down. Enough to go forward and gain time, of course, but not enough to just basically burn too much power.
I'm assuming it'll be quite similar to the Gen 2 car, where effectively, when you, as Jone Simijic goes for his first attack race, when you lift off fully, your regen kicks in automatically. It is the first part of the braking process, is the regen. When you lift off completely, it will start slowing you down. And we found when we were racing the Gen 2 car, if you hold the throttle around about 50 to 60%, what that does is it means that you're not putting any power down, but the regen's not activated. So you're controlling that regen with your right foot all the way around. And there'll be things like that all these drivers will be doing, all these little tricks that you'll find here, there, and everywhere to carry the most speed into the corner, to only regen when you really need that power back, and to kind of carry the most average speed. It is such an insanely difficult thing, which is why when we did it last year, you're only talking like 15-minute races. I absolutely love that we are now in full distance Formula E races for this. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it just makes it that little bit harder, and it's just something that you have to practice. You have to work out where you can obviously control the regen and obviously just generate the coasting. Bit of contact there behind Fiducia as Gillison making some contact actually, and just looking down we have Pev has DNF'd from this race as well, joined late and is now being the second retirement. Yeah,
that's a big shame. Yeah, Fiducia got into the rear end of Dennehan, Gillison got into the rear end of Fiducia. I'd have no doubts that maybe Bonnerhouse was also involved in that somehow. We're on board with House at the moment. Maserati, MSG Racing, big slides there going through from Gianmarco Fiducia once again through turn 7 as we head our way up towards the hairpin at 9. That was almost a very costly mistake from Bonnerhouse as the door being open potentially for David Marocek to come through. They head down towards the final corner now, and Bonnerhouse, the Flying Dutchman, is able just about to hang on. That was an odd misjudgment going down to the turn 9 hairpin.
Yeah, just obviously trying to lift off, trying to break at the point that he wants to, but because they're so packed together, you can be almost shocked by where the other drivers are lifting off and where they are slowing down compared to you. Certainly an interesting game to do so, because you can almost do it on purpose in certain corners to try and slow down to have a better exit and obviously catch your opponent unawares. But we're of course quickly coming up to the halfway stage of the race, and the drivers will be using that marker to work out, are we roughly at 50% of the battery, or have we used too much in this first part?
Yeah, like I say, you'll be running the numbers all the time. And as we found again when we were racing, we weren't doing full distance races, were we? We did.
Yeah,
was it full distance? Yeah. I don't remember. It's House to the inside at T7. That's a brave little look there on Isaac Gillison. He'll switch it back up. Obviously, he and Isaac Gillison, I think, have been teammates of some description not too long ago. They certainly know each other quite well. That is a big send from Bonnerhouse down the inside of Isaac Gillison. I don't think Gillison fought that one too well. You can see, especially by how much he's lifting going down into T10, wanted no more in that fight. What I was going to say was the fastest way to do the energy, Antonio Felix da Costa proved this back in 2020 when they did the races here at Berlin, those 6 races in the final. The fastest way to do the races, the best way to win, is not necessarily to pick the number of what 100 divides by 40 and then run that percentage each lap. That is not the best way to use your energy. It is better to use more early and then have that gap that they have to work into, or save it until later and then use it later. You're better off splitting that percentage, as Fiduci's having a little bit of an attack from the 5-time Formula Sim Racing World Champion.
And House is making some good progress there. A couple of moves in the previous lap and starting to use that as Giddison's actually lost a place to Mrocek in the background. So Giddison's gone down quite a way. You can see just in the background there, that red car lost a few seconds just in one lap from these overtakes. And you're right, the likes of Chinchik and Rasmussen, because they're at the front and they've pushed away, they're 10 seconds ahead of Ziggy in 5th place already. They can slow down now by 10 seconds. That's a lot of time that they can use lifting and coasting and slowing down to save that energy later in the race. So you're right, you've got to be using the power at the right time in the race, not just for the maths number, but situationally. Yeah,
you can see that half throttle. That's the regen not kicking in. That's what that was from Chinchik, basically coasting down into turn 6. What you're saying is quite right. I would be absolutely shocked right now if Chinchik and Rasmussen had used the same amount of energy as Siggy. I think Siggy's got way more in hand right now than the two at the front. But they've already built the gap. They've already put themselves in the position to that they're in control of the race. Now, yes, they might be a little bit on the back foot in the final stages. I don't think these two would have used too dissimilar a level of energy at this point. That said, some people can be more heavy-footed than others as we look to the rear end of James Baldwin on board with Kevin Siggy in that Mahindra racing car. And we'll see if the Neo 333 driver at the moment can hang on.
Yeah, you've got to have so much patience because it's so easy with the fact that they're lifting off down the straights. It's so easy just to be impatient, just go flat out and try and get past, but you just use too much energy doing so. You want to get past, but get past efficiently. So the fact that everyone is lifting off on the straights, you can do that too and just find a way to sneak past, as we've seen Bonnerhouse do in the previous couple laps. Coming on to this back straight. And of course, Baldwin's already taken the attack mode, so he's just going to be going to the end of the race now. All he just needs to basically do is focus on the mirrors and see where he can hold up Ziggy.
Yeah, indeed. I'm thinking, by the way, Jone Simic is closing in a little bit as Mamal Biancalilla goes for his second attack mode. I think Simic has started to close back into the top two ever so slightly. I don't think anyone's going to be going for the Tag Heuer fastest lap. I don't suspect anyone's going to steal that off of Freddie Rasmussen now that it's been set. Tyres are a little bit worn, they're a bit overheated. It's not about fuel levels in this as well, so you're not running on a lighter car now than you would have been earlier on in the race. I'm sure that, well, someone scientifically will be like, well, actually, because they've lost this much rubber and all. Yeah, no, I get it. So yes, slightly lighter, maybe slightly heavier, don't know, not really too bothered. Basically, it's not the same as it is with a normal race car.
Yes, you are correct. So obviously there's no weight loss really, and then the tyres just get more worn, so you do go slightly slower. You are very correct, and maybe that's why they were pushing at the start of the race as well, is to try and bank that extra point. As we were mentioning, we've, of course, when we get to July, we have the Rome Major, which is the same format as we've had today, round 2 of the championship, and when we get there, or after we get there, it's going to be the top 11 from both races combined. That go through to London. So that is really the important factor, is trying to bank some points now so you don't have to do that in Rome in July.
Yeah, certainly is. The middle of July as well. On the 15th is when that race will be. So the pre-qualifiers will be open for that. Of course, if you're watching this race and thinking, "Poor hot damn, I really want to give this a go," well, you can. It's an open qualifier to get into the Rome Major. So maybe you sat back at home and maybe you think, actually, no, I could give Marcel Chinchik a good run for his money, Jarno. So yeah, come along. We'll see what we can do next round. About halfway through the race, we're on the 20th lap at the moment, and once again, the gaps that are ebbing and flowing, they're ebbing in favour of Marcel Chinchik, building that gap out to 1.5 seconds at the moment, as he's starting to almost walk away with it.
Yeah, the style of racing is a lot about rhythm as well, and the fact that he hasn't been challenged at the front at all, he can get in a rhythm, he can find out exactly how to match his energy numbers to what he needs. He knows where he can push a little bit more, and he's now comfortable with the pressure that Rasmus has been, as we're getting House make another move down the inside there. This is great work from him. He's made up about 3 or 4 places in the last few laps. Denahan has actually taken attack mode, which of course helped that overtake.
Yeah, certainly so. I think he looked down the inside, Denahan went, yeah, okay, see ya. Have it, and I'll just get this dealt with. Yeah, Bonnerhouse is absolutely flying at the moment as he's closing in on Risto Capit. He's another driver that I'd put in the same kind of category as like Jone Simic, where he's been so experienced in this style of racing, whether it is looking after your tyres, looking after your fuel, or in this case, looking after your energy consumption. that he can multitask quite a lot in this race. To be fair, most of the drivers are pretty good at Elder Grid. I remember Peter Belyak, I replaced him for one round of the GPVWC Super League back in Turkey. And I remember he sat down with me and we're like, yeah, you need to be changing fuel map like this many times a lap. And I was like, I think I can do it maybe 5 or 6 times a lap. And he's like, no. You need to be doing it like 5 or 6 times a corner. And I was like, no, I can't do that, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, some of the drivers just have that extra brain power to be able to think about that as well. And I'm not sure if that's what the drivers will be doing here. There are a couple of different motors because one thing that's fairly new actually to the sim in rFactor 2 is there's actual like motor technology in the car. So these aren't basically like fueled cars that are being dubbed as being energies, basically.
Electric, yeah.
This is actually like the hybrid technology in the game now. There's electric technology in the game. It's a proper motor setup, and actual physics have gone into it to make everything like the regen work properly. And it's great to see that development has come to the way of a publicly available sim that you can get on the Steam store. Yeah,
absolutely so. And like you say, it's easy to jump onto these days and get yourselves involved in it. And Formula E have been working alongside Studio 397 with the Formula E content for quite a while now. So there's even a bit of a backlog. So you can go back and drive the Gen 2 car, the Gen 1 car, the Gen 1 car that looks slightly better as well with that updated front wing. I really like the look of that car when I look back.
It was very simple and it just worked.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Was it the second season, wasn't it?
I think they brought it out already for the second season, because the first season was obviously just quite basic and all spec cars, and then obviously from that we got the factory teams come in, and it's just progressed so far from that we're obviously getting the factory teams have drivers race for them in this Accelerate Championship. Yeah,
Formula E has moved from strength to strength, and it continues to do so as we see Bunnerhaus over to the rear end of Risto Capit now. I'm not sure how long Risto Capit's going to be able to fend off Bunnerhaus, bearing in mind how much he's flown past the likes of Marocek, Fiducci, Gillison, Denahan. He's just on a mission, is Bunnerhaus right now. He's clearly very frustrated from qualifying.
Do you reckon because obviously he was in that train for a long time, the first half of the race, do you reckon he saved a lot of power and now he's trying to use it? Something along the lines, but maybe saved too much, because obviously he's not going to gain that 20 seconds back to Cinchik at the front. But maybe that is a good example of how saving in the first half of the race, yes, you can gain a few places here, but you're not going to be getting back up to the podium.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing of like, this is where you have to be really, really adaptable in these cars, because you have to be able to switch up constantly. Bunnerhaus will look down the inside coming into turn 6, and Risto Capit does not fight that one. He'll go for the up and under going towards turn 7, but I don't think he's going to leave himself alongside for that one. So there is another move ticked off for Bunnerhaus. But I was going to say, because I remember when we were racing and things like this, the fact that you had to go from going like, right, I'm going to use 2.2% of this lap, and then I'm like, oh no, I've got way too much in the tank, so I'm going to use 3%. That time that you do to switch up to be like, I now need to use 3% a lap, you actually have to like kind of figure that out on the fly. Now these drivers are so good, they're basically like, I need to use 3% a lap. They already know what to do to hit that number. They're so on with it.
Yeah, and for instance, say you save 0.1 for 5 laps, you then need to have in your brain, oh, I've actually got 0.5 positive on the delta that I can use somewhere else. And it's the ability to keep track of that and to know what's going on. Of course, some of these drivers might even have strategies. They might have some sort of calculation that can work it out for them. But still, the fact that you're even thinking about that during the race and having the ability to, as you say, adapt your driving to that number is very important. And something that we've actually seen the whole race so far is Rasmussen. He's around that 1.5 second gap. He hasn't got any closer, hasn't got any further away. So maybe Cinchik is controlling the pace at the front.
I mean, I kind of get that vibe, is that Marcel Cinchik does come across as this, especially when you see him racing, this crazy, exuberant, mad driver who will just throw the car completely over the limit. And I still have this mindset with Marcel, and it's just not true anymore. And it hasn't been true for ages. He is consistent, well balanced. He actually doesn't win races that much, right? And I think you might have noticed as well, is that his race win record percentage-wise is probably not that great, but his podium record is unreal, as he'll go for his attack mode, his second attack mode. He's going to lose the race lead here. Freddie Rasmussen's not gone for it, but as that drive off of turn 6, it does favour Marcel Cinchik just a touch. That was very close to him losing there, and you can hear how early Freddie Rasmussen was lifting off.
And now he's got a little bit more power to hold on to that. So that worked out perfectly by literally about a meter or two. He managed to hold on to the lead. And now Rasmussen obviously needs to try and come back from that one. But Cinčić should have just enough to hold on with that slight extra power that you get from the attack mode. So this is looking very good for the Hungarian driver. And as you say, he has calmed down so much in the last sort of 4 or 5 years from when we were first obviously seeing him. And he's gone through a couple of different teams since then. And you're right. Since the R8G move about 18 months ago, that has just confirmed him as a top-level driver.
Incredible stuff. It really, really is impressive from Marcel Cinčić. Freddie Rasmussen trying to keep him very, very close at the moment. Freddie Rasmussen might go for the for attack mode here, and he is going to go straight away. So whilst Cinčić ticked it off, he's going to go for his second attack mode as well. Bish, bash, bosh. Gap goes back out to over 2 seconds.
Yeah, so Marcel effectively held up Rasmussen for those couple of corners when he was rejoining from the attack mode as well. So net, Rasmussen lost more from that because obviously Rasmussen doesn't have obviously a way of doing that on his one, because as soon as he takes it, he now drops back again. So that was a very perfectly timed strategic decision there from your pole position driver, who's now leading the way, coming up already towards the last sort of 14 laps of this race.
Yeah, there is not long left to go. And you can see here the Formula E predictor. If you get your phones out now, scan the QR code. Of course, whilst we're racing here in the virtual world around the virtual Berlin circuit, don't forget, of course, later on today, the Berlin E-Prix will begin. Qualifying's already been set, so you can set your predictions in there. And, I don't know, tell us who you think. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, are we doing a spoiler of the
Yeah, why not?
Sam Bird.
I think Sam Bird as well.
Go for it.
I think Sam Bird as well. I think today is the day for Sam Bird. Although that said, to be fair, around this circuit, you can see anyone winning from way outside of the top 10 as well. You'll be able to vote using this QR code to vote for driver of the race for that as well. And so you can really get involved in social media with everything Formula E. I mean, whilst we're on the topic, who is our driver of this race so far?
Cinčić.
It's got to be,
He's just controlled it so well. The pressure that Rasmussen was putting on him, the pace at the beginning of the race, he's just been able to just take another step, to be honest, because I reckon if Rasmussen got out ahead, no one would be able to touch him. But Cinčić did that lap in the qualifying. He held it in the first lap of the race where it's so crucial. He set the fastest lap on lap 2, and of course Rasmussen took that back by just a little bit, but he has been able to get ahead on track.
Yeah, of course, that fastest lap, the Tag Heuer fastest lap, is worth a single point. I'm sure that, points being prized and all that a lot. But when it comes to your only focus in this is winning the race, and is obviously moving through into the London final. A race win here, basically, it's almost guaranteeing it. There's 13 laps, though, or 12 and a half, really, at this point, laps left to go in this race. That gap being 2.5 seconds. Jone Simicic is just looming in the background in case there's any mistake from Marcel Cinčić or Freddie Rasmussen. And we're now heading into those final moments of the race where the questions are going to start to be asked. Who has saved the right amount of energy? Has someone overspent in the early stages of this race?
Yeah, it's getting to squeaky bum time now as well, because with only being 12 laps left, if you realise, oh no, I'm 3% short, dividing that by 12, of course, becomes a bigger number per lap that you then need to save to the end of the race as well. So this is why you've got to keep on top of it from the start of the race, and you would expect, at least at the front, all the drivers to do that as Simicic runs out of his final attack mode as well. He hasn't really been a factor in this, but does he have anything left, any extra power he can use somewhere to get up towards Rasmussen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Jone Simicic is the kind of driver that will leave anything on this table. I suspect if we could, obviously I know we can't because it's just how it's going at the moment. If we could have seen his percentages, I guarantee he's the kind of driver that will finish this race on 0.0%. He is that kind of driver. He can get it down to the T. Isaac Gillison, by the way, unfortunately, becoming the 4th retirement of this race. We lost Moritz Lerner, Peepev and Martin Merguli a little bit earlier on. The top 10 at the moment, the point scoring positions. Marcel Cinčić hanging on to the race lead. Freddie Rasmussen in second. Jone Simicic in third, as we've got 10 laps left to go, just over. Kevin Sinky hanging on to 4th position as he muscled his way back past lost James Baldwin. And then we've got Paich and Carroll, the teammates of Baldwin, elsewhere in sim racing in the wider scene. Manuel Biancalilla hanging on to 8th position. Meanwhile, Bonnerhouse has been on the comeback charge after issues earlier on the day in 9th, ahead of Risto Capit. I think we've got to give Bonnerhouse a bit of a shout out for that, potential driver of the day, because he's been the only one actually putting on some proper overtakes.
Yeah, it's just a shame that he's that far down for a driver of his caliber, but that just shows you how qualifying can make such a big impression on your race, and even with the likes of Murchek as well. I believe he was about 15th, 16th in qualifying. He's been able to get up pretty decently up to 12, but realistically he's only potentially going to get Dennehan ahead, maybe cap it up ahead. So that's why you've got to be nailing your qualifying. You've got to be starting sort of in the top 5 to even have a proper shout of winning the race.
Yeah, when it comes to championships like this, qualifying reigns supreme. If you're starting every race from 20th, I guarantee you're going nowhere in this championship. You've got to be starting inside the top 10, inside the top 5, getting through into the duels. You have to be consistently doing that. In terms of, now, don't get me wrong, I say consistently, there is only 2 majors, of course. We've got the Berlin major and then we've got the Rome major later on, but consistently doing it twice, it is tricky, it is hard, but you have to do it. Coming up to a bit of lap traffic as well, Lorenz Herzing about to go a lap down on Marcel Chinchik. Shouldn't be too major for him, although it is going to happen at quite a scary part of the track as the yellow flag comes out once again, I think, for Liam Duval.
Yeah, blue flags will be in effect, so he will be told that on his screen, and I do believe he's slowing up a little bit there, and is going to be letting your race leader through. Over 2 seconds gap has been held since that attack mode being taken from Rasmussen. He hasn't been able to catch up, so that was a perfectly timed move for Chinchik. He's really opened up that extra half a second compared to what we were like in the middle part of the race, and he just needs to cruise back the last sort of 9 laps now towards the end of the race.
I am, at this point, as things stand, with 9 laps left to go in this race, I am very much looking forward to our post-race debrief with Marcel Chinchik to ask, where has this come from?
I do agree, to be honest.
Madness.
It's we always know he's been a good driver. He's always been there, as you say, but he's never quite won all the races, as you've been mentioning. So where has this final step come from? Has it been RAG, his team? Have they worked it out? Has it just been the fact that he's putting in so much more effort now, maybe compared to some years ago? We'll have to find out, as you say, in a potential interview, but we cannot count our chickens just yet. So Rasmussen is still there, and if Chinchik makes any sort of mistake, any sort of miscalculation on the energy, that could be swapping around very quickly.
I did get told, by the way, Peter Belyak doesn't have a front wing. Is what I've been told.
Well, he's continuing, it seems, in 15th place. And to be fair, this car doesn't produce the most downforce, but there must still be a loss.
There is no front wing there. There is absolutely no front wing on board this wagon. The Envision racing car is lacking a certain amount. I do remember this from even back in the older Formula. You can see it is tricky to drive. He's certainly not got the front downforce that he'd want, so he's really compensating by giving it a bit of a heavy foot. I mean, respect him. He's giving it a go.
He certainly is, and he's not giving up. And I guess he's just keeping any, because if he pits, he's got no chance of anything happening ahead. At least if he stays on track, even though it's not ideal without a front wing, he's at least still in the shout if some major things happen ahead. Yeah,
I mean, unlikely, but Peter Belyak, who came into this, again, the second seed, effectively, as he'd kind of worked his way into position just based on the qualifiers coming into this, but also was one of the drivers that actually did take part in the 2022 Formula E Accelerate in that live final at London. He'll be very disappointed that he's not taken the most advantage of this round, but that is how it goes. Like I say, did not take the most of qualifying.
Yeah, Petter's one of those drivers for me. I rate him so much, and he's such a nice guy as well.
He really is.
But he is just that one little step behind from being like the top driver.
He was for a little while, wasn't he?
Yeah, it certainly was. But for instance, like in FSR, his title was in 2015, which is already 8 years ago now. Such is the fact that we're all getting old. But he's races in all these competitions, to be fair, and he's always there. But just can't. Oh, this is a nice battle.
Yeah, Graham Carroll, Manuel Bianca Lilla. Bianca Lilla making some progress and getting past Graham Carroll. Also, sorry, I don't know, every time I kind of like look at this, I'm like, oh yeah, there's another Mercedes driver joining the mix. Because of course, James Baldwin, Marco Perez, Graham Carroll and Bonner House, all of them being Mercedes drivers. All of them being Mercedes drivers who were racing in a different competition yesterday.
Oh, that's true, actually. It's the 4 of them.
It is the 4 of them.
Wow, yes. There's another competition yesterday where each team has 4 drivers entered, and they are the 4 drivers.
They are the 4.
Which is crazy.
That is madness. I hadn't even thought of that until now.
They had time to practice for that competition, practice for this one, do the qualifying races, do the hot laps, do obviously the racing last night, and then jump onto this. That is some intense workout.
All 4 of them are inside the top 10.
Amazing.
It shows the might of Mercedes, not only in the real world of motorsport, but also in the world of sim racing as well. And hey, maybe we might even see a 5th one joining in the scene if we can see potentially Jarno Opmeer jumping onto it.
That would be great, to be fair. Obviously,
Marcel Kiefer, want to give it a go?
Any of them, to be fair.
Come on.
The more, and also the fact is, as you say, because of the way the points work, we're looking at the top 11 over the 2 races. If you just come in and win race 2, you're basically going through anyway.
Exactly.
Even maybe a top 4, you might actually be able to get enough points.
Yeah, maybe, to be honest, maybe even lower than that. I mean, you think of it this way, if it was the same top 10, not that it probably would be, but you're going to expect, if most of these drivers are going to do the next round as well, and the top 10 is relatively the same, well then you actually only have to score like 3 or 4 points to get among them.
And also, as
you get what I mean?
As it's the top 11 going through, if it's the exact same top 10 next time, 11th person won't have a point.
Yeah, I don't know that's going to happen. Because someone's going to come out of the woodworks and join us for the next round, of course, for our Rome Major. I mean, it is a long way down the road. Like you say, Cam is not joking when he says it is in July.
Yes, so there's a lot of time to practice and get used to it. As we were mentioning, this Gen 3 only got released last week on rFactor 2, but now you have, what's that, about 3 months, just under 3 months to practice the car, get used to it, learn how to drive it fast, and, well, potentially see yourself in the top 22 for the Rome Major.
Yeah, and again, the big prize is not just the very hefty amount of prize money, by the way, that is on offer over the season, but the big prize is obviously going to London to meet Lewis McGlade and Cameron Roger, of course. That's what everyone wants.
Well, to be honest, the
the
land pass sim racing are some of the best points, because obviously we spend so much time racing online. Meeting the people in person is just that extra level.
I like how you actually turned what I was definitely a joke and trying to put people off into a positive. Good effort. Always the optimist,
it's good.
Cam.
It's good though. The in-person events are great, and of course the fact that it's going to be at the XL for London, the actual London E-Prix as well.
Was so
the
good
event
last year.
as a whole is going to be amazing.
It was so good last year. Of course, last year it was on the Friday. This year it is on the Saturday, so that should be very exciting indeed. As Jacob Reed sends it down the inside, big locks on the rear end as he's trying to send it down the inside of Gianmarco Verducci. That was a proper send from Reed.
That was almost desperate, but he made it work, and potentially sliding actually helped because he sort of used up a bit more real estate on the track, and Verducci couldn't hold on to that one. So Reed obviously not having the exact day that he would have wanted, not qualifying the best. I believe he was actually pretty much last in qualifying, but he's worked it up into 13th place and is doing a pretty good job, but might just lose out here through turn 2. No, he holds on to it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, Jacob Reed is normally more associated on rFactor 2 with the open wheel scene. He does quite a lot with open wheels, ovals is what I was trying to say. With the oval scene, does a lot of in that side of things. Yeah, whether it is sort of Indy cars or even I think he's done some NASCAR type stuff. He was taking part in the Formula Sim Racing Indy Pro Championship, isn't he?
Well, he actually sort of did the race direction and stuff with us, but then he raced in the stock car series as well. He loves it. He loves it. He does a lot on other sims as well. The oval stuff is really his thing, but in general, he's a very fast driver. As we're getting Herzing there, letting through a number of other drivers, including PH Bianca Lilla here at the sort of P6, P7 battle.
Where is Bianca Lilla coming from in this race? Because he's obviously caught up to Graham Carroll, got his way past. Now he's caught all the way back up to the rear end of Page and Baldwin. Bianca Lilla on the cusp of a potential top 5 late on in this race. There is 3 laps left to go. There'll be 2 at the line. Could Bianca Lilla do the unthinkable? Could he muscle his way past Marco Page and James Baldwin and get himself a very healthy 10 points in the opening round of the Formula E Accelerate Championship?
Considering it's only about a second covering the top, these 3 drivers, I should say, I do think he's going to go for it. They're getting closer and closer, and we are already getting towards the penultimate lap of the race. We're starting lap 39 of 40 as we get some yellow flags come out. Someone had a bit of an issue.
I think it might have been Graham Carroll. I think it was Graham Carroll that's had the problem. He is now in 9th position. He's dropped back behind Bonaz. I think it might have just been a spin for him. That would have been probably down about turn 6 based on where they were. I was just about to say this, though. Look at Freddie Rasmussen as the yellow flag comes out again. This time, definitely not sure as to who it was for. But Marcel Chinchik is starting to feel the pressure. Just a lap and a half to go. We're heading down to turn 6. Are we in for a final lap duel? Well, Chinchik's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders to see.
I just wonder if Rasmussen has saved throughout the race and can go flat out on the final lap. That would be an incredible feat if he can do so. We're about to find out, though. The final lap of round 1 is coming up. Just 10 corners to go, 2 and a bit kilometres. It's going to be an intense battle with Rasmussen pushing. Yeah, there's a couple of little fights in here. So, of course, we're going to keep our eye on the Baldwin Page Bianca Lilla fight for 5th, 6th and 7th. But there is this for the race lead. It is under a second as we cross the line. White flag, effectively, if you know your American racing and stuff. White flag in the air. We are on the final lap of this race. Marcel Chinchik has led 39. He just needs to tick it off and make it 40 from 40. At the moment, he is looking good, and I'm not sure Freddie Rasmussen has the energy to close up. We'll really see up towards turn 6. And also in behind, Ziggy's getting close to Simičić for the final place on the podium as well. So 2 battles in the top 4 to look out for. Let's, of course, see this battle for the race leaders. Rasmussen gets closer and closer in towards turn 6. Just a bit of sliding on the rear there from Chinchik, but he holds on for now. Just a couple of major corners to go. And, of course, the 2 hairpins. Yeah, dominant is certainly not the right word. Yes, he's been out front, but he has been kept close by the 2-time series champion, Freddie Rasmussen. He's sat all over the rear end, but Marcel Chinchik has just one final corner to tick off. It is a tricky one, though, down at turn 10. Any mistake here, and you know Freddie Rasmussen will pounce, but Chinchik has been perfect all the way through. Big kick of oversteer. That is just showboating if ever I've seen it. Chinchik comes across the line to win the first round of the Formula E Accelerate Championship. The Berlin Major goes to Marcel Chinchik, the RHE esports man on top of the world. Freddie Rasmussen in second. Jene Simičić just fending off Kevin Siggy in those final pushes. Manuel Biancalilla, though, has got past Pajic, but not past Baldwin. Amazing drive from the Italian there up into P6. He was way down the field, but managed his energy well and did his racecraft a thing of beauty as well. Cabot there, unfortunately, it was looking good in qualifying, but just couldn't hold on in the race. P10 for him. And Dennehan as well, after setting such a fast lap in qualifying, he can only come 12th. Yeah, that is a big shame for Jake Dennehan. Maybe that lap did come out of absolutely nowhere. Shout out to Peter Burnett, by the way. Coming across the line. No front wing. Did the rest of the race without that. Gianmarco Viducci down to 15th. I know he said he's just happy to be here, but I know he'll be disappointed after a race like that. Liam DeVal will come across the line in 16th. Lorenz Herzing's already finished a lap down. Isaac Gillison, Moritz Lerner, Peo Pev and Martin Moguli, the 4 retirements from this race. But how many superlatives can you throw the way of Marcel Chinchik? Also, that celebration. Amazing. That was a long power slide out the corner. That was a big old power slide. Oh my goodness! That's just. It was maybe a little too much from Chinchik, but either way, it was a fantastic drive. Marcel Chinchik on top here. Yeah, to be honest, absolutely flawless. He nailed the qualifying when it mattered in the final, got the pole position, got the extra points, nailed lap 1 and held on, and also even his attack mode strategy he nailed as well. I don't think we really saw a mistake. Sorry, we just saw it again as we look here at the studio. Just, I think maybe one good final look at his kick out of the fight. Look at that. That is insane to me. That's just asking for a little bit too much power, a little bit heavy-footed and into the barrier. And I've seen that happen before. I was going to say Tauscher did that, didn't he? On the final corner of race. That was also to win a championship as well. So obviously Chinchik having a bit of fun there, just showing he had complete control of that. And to be honest, we cannot fault the race that he did. And the fact that he held on to the tyres so much that he could actually have the grip there and not just spin around like we've seen some people do is amazing. His car control is absolutely fantastic. We'll wait a few minutes because we are going to catch up with Marcel Chinchik himself and see exactly what was going on, what in his mindset, and the positive vibes that he's sending out through the rest of the season. I mean, I'm absolutely sure we'll be seeing him in London. Oh yeah, for sure, because especially with getting outscored now. Yeah, especially with getting the pole position. basically he can't be obviously in 12th place and get knocked out to not go to London, because obviously the top 11 is what we're looking for. So yeah, we're going to see him in London, which is good. And of course Rasmussen as well, we're at 2nd place. That should be enough points. But are they going to come back?
Especially with the single point for the Tag Heuer fastest lap as well. Got to remember as well, like you say, are we going to see them back? I was kind of talking about this a bit earlier on. I think it would be a tactical mistake not to come back, because let's be honest, let's say Freddie Rasmussen says, no, actually, I'm not going to come back. Marcel Cincic says, no, actually, I'm not going to come back. I've already qualified my way through. It's perfect. And then someone like a Jarno Opmeer or a Marcel Kiefer or someone like that comes along and is like, okay, I'm going to take part now and I'm going to try. You want to take points off of them and really put the pressure on. If you can kind of like beat them in the race, you're taking points away from them. We should be able to catch up with Marcel Cincic. He should appear on the screen behind us, and we should be able to have a little chat with the man himself. I'll get out of the way. Marcel Cincic, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear clearly.
Perfect. I mean, talk to us about that race. You looked phenomenal out there.
Thank you. It felt phenomenal also from inside.
How are you feeling right now?
Absolutely happy. Like, yeah, it was a really hard weekend, because yesterday we were having a race on rFactor, so we were focusing on that on that race also. But we tried to give everything for this, the Formula E. And yeah, to be honest, I didn't really expect that it's possible to beat Freddie. but it's absolutely mega. I cannot say anything else.
Hi, Marcel, Cameron here. I just wanted to say, your qualifying lap, you pulled that out of the bag in the final. You beat Rasmussen. He was, everyone was betting on Rasmussen to get the pole position, but you managed to get those extra points as well. How was that qualifying lap, if you can remember it?
Yeah, let's say like the first part of the qualifying, I didn't feel the car at all. Like on the practice, I could do really good lap times. Like probably I was the fastest, and then on quali started, and I couldn't really put the lap together, and it came the best time. Like I could beat Jarno with a good lap, and also Freddie, which was an amazing feeling.
How hard is this car to drive? Because it looks really tricky, especially with that big power slide you had coming out of the final corner there.
Yeah, exactly. That was like for the show a bit, but absolutely understand. It's like, we were being, I guess, absolutely on the limit with Freddie, and on the gap it was possible to see like we went away like 10 seconds or something. So we couldn't lift at all. Like we were on the limit of the energy to make it until the end. I had like 0.5% after the finish flag, so it was really tight. But yeah, it's hard to drive.
Yeah, I was going to also ask you about the energy management. How did you control that? Because your pace in the first few laps was almost qualifying pace. You're doing sort of 0.3s, 0.4s, and you really kept that speed. How did you sort of manage that throughout the race? Because we obviously noticed you lifting off pretty much the whole length of the straights.
Yeah, like at the beginning it was surprising that I was going away from Freddie, but I was thinking that maybe he's saving a bit more on the tires and it's gonna change back at the end of the race. And I think you could see that because the last 10 laps he was closing every lap, and at the last lap it was less than 1 second. So I was like, just please finish it. So yeah, I pushed at the beginning, but it was a bit hard at the end.
Well, Marcel, it's been a fantastic drive. We are going to let you jump off, celebrate, enjoy your time with your team. Well done, mate.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. What a guy. What a drive.
Yeah, amazing, and such a nice guy. And also, I like the fact that he actually admitted to the bit of showboating at the end there as well. He's definitely got a good sense of humour as well.
You've absolutely got to. I mean, he's always had a bit of a sense of humour, and it's the bravery. Could you imagine being like, yeah, no, I'm going to come out the final corner, I'm beating Freddie Rasmussen. Do you know what this needs? This needs a power slide. This needs a proper full-on drift out of the final corner. The car control he's got. He must have done drifting or something before.
Yeah, that's confidence though, and Rasmussen knows that now. So obviously taking that into Rome in July, then obviously a few weeks later at the London final. Is that going to be the pairing that we're going to be watching out over the next couple of months? Potentially. Do we see Yuri Toman join the fray as well? Obviously, one of their teammates in RHG. What can Haniovsky do as well? Again, we'll be going racing. Yes, it is a while away. We'll be going racing next time in Rome.
Are we expecting the same kind of things? Are you expecting Freddie Rasmussen to return? Are you expecting Marcel Chinchik to return?
Yeah, Rome has a lot of really tight and twisty corners, so that can always open up to a bit of driver talent coming into it, because obviously you need to get in that extra last little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's obviously fighting up towards the front, but Chinchik's got to stop it. Chinchik needs to basically keep that momentum going and show him that he's the dominant factor going into London when we obviously get to the XL.
Yep, certainly so. We'll take a look at the race standings as well, and we can see, once again, provisional. I'm sure there'll be a few things that might need to be looked at after the race, but Marcel Chinchik taking the first victory of the season ahead of Freddie Rasmussen and Jone Simoncic. That podium, of course, we did catch up with Marcel Chinchik there. Kevin Siggy managing to fight his way back past James Baldwin. Manuel Biancalilla with a great charge late on in the race to get himself back up into 6th spot and score himself 8 points. Marco Pejich, Bonnerhouse, Graham Carroll and Risto cap it the top 10. Bonnerhouse, obviously, great recovery drive. Davin Rocek rounding out the top 11. And like I say, probably a bit of an off day for the Tag Heuer Porsche, obviously burst esports man. Some of those outside of the top 11, Jake Dennehan dropped back to 12th. A bit of a shame for him after some great pace that he showed in qualifying. Jacob Reed in 13th after that late battle with Dennehan, with Bowiak, with Fiducci as well. 14th and 15th. Liam DeVow in 16th. Lorenz Herzing finished a lap down in 17th. Hanjowski, unfortunately, did not take part. And we had retirements from Isaac Gillison, Martin Mogili, Moritz Lerner and Peo Pev through the race. A lot of stories still to be told. I think that's the big talking point from this. Whilst Marcel Chinchik is showing himself as the man to beat, there's a lot more to digest here.
Absolutely, and those 11 drivers on the screen, plus obviously anyone else who wants to get involved in Rome, they need to get themselves into that top 11 in the standings to go through to London as well. So it's going to be crucial that they learn the car, they get it ready for Rome, and they are there when the open qualifiers obviously go around again.
Let's help the people out who's watching, who's thinking, I really want to have a go. How do I qualify for Rome? Not me, obviously, because I'm too slow, but generally.
Yes, obviously the simulation is rFactor 2. You can get that on Steam as well. You obviously need the DLC content, which is obviously the car and the track. Then within rFactor 2, there's a competition system in the main menu. You click on that and you can sign up when the qualifiers open. As you see now on the top right-hand side of your screen, there'll be the open qualifier. It's basically open qualifying session. You set your fastest times. We get the top 88 drivers where we'll go into the qualifying races where you have 3 races, the top 22 on points, then go through to Rome in the exact same format like you saw today with the qualifying, the duels, and then the race. So yeah, we're going to do it all over again for round 2 in Rome. And that's why I'm looking forward to it because the action today was great. And of course, there's still a lot of question marks as to who's going to go through in that top 11.
Yep, certainly so. Well, don't forget, of course, if you do want to join in the competition, you can do so. Follow the CAM's instructions there about going through rFactor 2 and getting into the qualifiers, of course. That'll be happening in the middle of July before we have our Rome major. But, of course, there's so much happening in Formula E between now and then. Of course, the Berlin E-Prix is about to get underway. I can't wait to watch it. Can't do these kind of championships without the massive thanks towards our sponsors. Allianz being one of those. The ABB, of course, the title sponsor for the FIA Formula E World Championship, Copper, as well as Tag Heuer, our major sponsors, and also the help from Studio 397 to bring us the fantastic cars and races. To everyone also here, it's been a fantastic performance. From myself, Lewis McGlade, less so. From Cameron Roger, he's been pretty decent. We thank you very much for joining us, and until the middle of July, we'll see you then, and bye-bye. Thank you.